call the March 14th, 2024 meeting in order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ann, would you lead us?
I'm sorry.
Ann,
Ann.
would you lead
Oh,
us?
I'm so sorry. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I spoke into the microphone, Ann. You always yell at me to speak into the microphone, and I did. Kathy.
You could do public comment?
Oh, I guess we can. Is anybody in the office, in the audience who would like to have public comment today? You have 5 minutes. Please state your name, your address, and come on up.
And online?
Well, thank you very much there. Anybody online?
I do not see any hands raised.
Thank you. Kathy.
Okay. Just to go through the process for tonight, we're going to start off with the registrar of voters, then the library is going to come and give a brief presentation, and then Rose Ponte Economic Development. So we're going to have those three presentations first, then we'll start with my departments, and we'll run down all through the departments. We are taking a break around 6 o'clock for pizza is coming. When we get to the part where we're going to do my departments, we typically do it by section, and we do a tentative approval. And if you want to go back to any of the pages after, you'll ask questions. If you want to go back to any of the pages, if you want to make changes or anything like that, we'll keep a running list of that. And at the end, we can go back and address any of the pages. But we'll be tentatively approving each one of the sections. And that's how we typically do it.
Okay.
So that's that. And once Ann comes back,
She's
the
back.
registrars, and you're going to start, everyone has their book, right? And you're going to start on page 9. And I think when you and I talked, you don't, Joe, do they do the tentative approval before? Do they make a motion? Make the motion. And so we're going to start on page 9.
But first, he has to do D.
So
No, that's what I thought too.
at the end.
Yeah. So if everyone goes to page 9, this is the registrar's thing. At the end, you'll say, make a motion to tentatively approve page 9.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, you can go ahead and,
First, I'd like to make a motion to consider and take action on the proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Hello, Ann and Beth. How are you today?
Hi, thanks. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for coming down, or actually walking over, not really coming
Yes,
down.
long commute for us.
Was it far?
Traffic issues. Been together all day, and now we get to be here in front of you, so thank you. So I think you all know us. I'm Beth Kittner, the Democratic Registrar of Voters.
Ann Newberry, Republican Registrar of Voters.
So we're just a few months into our second year of our new term. So we've had lots of learning since January 2023. It's a challenging job, it's a busy job, but we're working really well together, and we have great deputies, great poll workers. So we're in good shape. Because as you know, there's more changes to come in our office, as we were here talking about last month. But the budget increase that you see from 23 to 24 to 24-25 is happening for a few reasons, but it is a big year for elections, right? With the presidential election happening in November, that's a high turnout election that we have to ramp up for in staff, and anytime it's a bigger election, there's just more preparation, more hours that go into that and setting that up. But those, a possible primary in August for state or congressional offices, we have yet to see whether or not we'll be running another election in August. And then we obviously have the referendum every late April, early May. So we have 3 voting events in the 24-25 year that we know of, that we're planning for. And then as we were here talking about in February, we have early voting that we're implementing for the first time this year, starting in just a few weeks on March 26th. So we've been very busy planning for that, scheduling, that sort of thing. So early voting for 24-25 could be 7 days in August, which is equivalent to about 71 hours of staffing, and then 14 days in November for the presidential election, which is about 134 hours for staffing. So that alone, that's that big bump that you see in our request. But each voting event requires, preparation in the office, recruitment of poll workers, which is what's been happening in our office. So if you've been in our office the past couple of days, it's lots of phone calls, leaving messages, poll workers calling back, plugging them into different polling locations. And we're working on early voting and the primary on April 2nd together and getting that ready. So recruitment, scheduling, and then we have to train every poll worker for every voting event. So I think, Ann and I shared when we first started kind of what we heard from the folks who recruited us to take on this job, and our predecessors too. And it was described as, public hours are 15 hours a week. So you're typically here 15 hours a week. But it's very busy and obviously a lot more hours leading up to an election. So, the week or two leading up to an election. But what we're finding is most weeks, at least 25 hours for us to just keep up and on a regular week with registrations, and it's people coming on and off the rolls. What else did I want to say? Or am I getting into what you were going to say? Okay. So just a regular week and just maintaining the voter rolls and that sort of thing. It's at least 25 hours a week. That's without preparing for an election or leading up to an election. When we look at the early voting and how that will change things, it looks like, depending on the year and how many voting events there are, it could increase our hours about 20%. So just to put that out there. And there's the job itself over the years, over the past decade, 20 years, has just changed a lot. So that's your segue.
I've got my script, see? And she's talking, so she can keep talking if she
He
wants.
did that to me at Rotary the other day.
She wants in.
Yeah.
But historically, you just need to know that things have really changed for all registrars across the state, not just in Farmington, the past 10 and certainly 20 years. In Farmington alone, active registered voters has increased by 38% in the past 20 years. In 2003, there were 14,636 voters, and now we're just under 20,000. The increased transactions, of course, are sort of as Beth alluded to, everyone's more transient these days. You should know when we change somebody's registration, even in town, they get a new registration card and it's stapled to the old. And some of them are 5, 6, 7, 8 cards now. Some of it for addresses and some of it for party changes. They go back and forth. So technology has had a big impact because every time you go to DMV, you have a way to make a change in your voting. We then get that notice, and then we make the change, send them a letter, and so forth. So I'm sure our postage has gone way up too. We have monthly meetings with the Secretary of State now that are required. We have twice-year conferences, which is sort of like professional development. And we have required certification classes that we need to go to. The budget request increases is primarily for staffing of early voting and all the other voting events for 24-25, as Beth alluded to. But it doesn't include any possible increase for the registrar's salaries. And that will get voted on by the council, I believe, before our new term begins in January 2025, because we have a 2-year term. We'll be recommending an increase in our salaries to reflect the increased responsibilities as well as the hours and the demands of our job. The incremental increases that were given to our predecessors who had the roles for many, many years just have not been keeping up with the changes in the position and the hours that are required to do the job the way we know it should be done for the town of Farmington. We want the best for Farmington at all times. Take any questions?
Well, thank you both. There's
We
no
have a
doubt it's a
handout.
hard job, so again, thank you for everything. coordinating, training, getting everything done. Dave, you have any questions?
Well, I just want to compliment Bethany, and you have, it seems like you have a great working relationship, and you're great in the office. Every time I pop in, you're just helpful and friendly, and I know things are hectic, but, you know, kudos to both of you. So on this, it looks like, right, your proposed request for the part-time personnel services were to be like 164, 325, right? And the town manager, where we've landed here is 136, 257. Do you see those numbers?
Yes, you're just looking at the part-time, which is basically our personnel or salary costs, yep.
Right, and I guess from that end, well, and it's the biggest line item, what I'm wondering is, so the state of Connecticut came up with 10.5, they came up with their contribution.
Oh, that's just
early
for early voting.
Voting, right, right? Which, if you took the actual 2022 and 2023 and you added 10.5, you'd land on 136 plus or minus, right?
Okay.
Are you comfortable that that number will cover what you have in front of you, or?
Well, 10.5 won't.
10.5 won't
Yeah,
begin
10.5,
to.
right.
No,
Yeah.
we made a presentation
Right,
earlier
that's what I thought.
to
Okay.
council with Derek Slapp
Right.
It's
and
to
Mike
offset,
D'Amico
but
and
it's-
everyone here.
It'll offset it.
No. And yet it's required, so how many people at each polling place is required? It's required, for example, for the primary, that we report by each district and precinct, so we have 7 voting locations for this primary coming up. And I know that we're not talking future with that, but that's a huge
That's coming up, right.
waste of money.
Okay, you've answered my question, my inquiry. Yep.
Amy?
Thank you for all that you do. I mean, you guys do a great job, and I appreciate the fact that you're good about all these things that are happening, and just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Keith?
I echo everybody's thanks, and I do think it will be incumbent upon us to support the registrars who are definitely being asked to do more. You know, everybody I think who was up here was sold a job that was easy, and then you find out that you have a bunch, you know, but certainly that you guys are definitely in that boat too, and, you know, thank you very much, and I think it'll be incumbent upon us to support you as we go forward into these new waters.
We just wanted to indicate that, you know, maybe bad on us, but we didn't necessarily put in our own increase when we did our request, and there's some other clerical support, and
No, certainly,
we'll
the
have to
jo-
figure out what we really need to, and just learning the job too.
No, and thank you for,
polite.
I mean, I think everybody owes you a debt for the fact that you are doing the job that is required and not sticking firm to, you know, the hard parameters of hours and whatever else, and you're just handling
Fortunately,
everything.
we're kind of the same that way, so that's good. So we don't have someone who's doing, yeah,
That's all for me.
we enjoy the job.
Excellent. Sarah?
I don't have any question. Well, actually, I do have just a curiosity. Where will the early voting be?
Yeah, so
Oh.
it's going to be in the pavilion.
In the pavilion
Oh, okay.
for all early voting events.
Interesting.
We are so fortunate to have the pavilion because we were going to try and do it here in the council chambers, but that really disrupts town hall, probate and everything else. Council.
Booking the room, the traffic, foot traffic.
Definitely
So-
makes it easier in and out over there.
We have the pavilion. I'm about to give you a handout that lists again the early voting hours, and we hope to see you at early voting the last week of March so you can talk about where it is and how it's operating.
Try it out.
Perfect. Patty, do you have any?
Second question, did you?
No, that was it. No, and just
Okay.
thank you both too.
Patty, you have anything?
I just have a question about, so the actual expenses that we have in our budget book are from 22-23, which was a state election year.
Right.
How do those numbers compare to a presidential election year?
Like prior to early voting. Is that what your question?
Yeah, right.
I'd have
I mean,
to
are
take
they
a wild guess.
comparable?
No, I think a presidential year was closer to 150, 140, but I'd have to look. I don't have going back further. I mean, I do in the. It bumps it up a little bit because we have to be really careful when we have high traffic, moving, making sure we have staffing that can accommodate, move the lines, keep the lines short. So you do see a little bit of an increase. Presidential's obviously the largest turnout that we have.
Usually. Who knows this year?
So I'm just curious, given that this year's recommended proposed budget is 136,000, if that's enough for a presidential election year.
Oh, but down at the.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the part-time line, aren't I? My bad. Reading the wrong line. You can scratch that last question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Brian?
All I can say is echoing everyone else here, you, your staff, your volunteers are all champions. Thank you for keeping democracy alive and voting alive and for all that you guys do to make us what we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion for tentative approval.
Yep.
Page 9.
Yes.
So I'd like to make a motion for a tentative approval for page 9 in our budget book.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And for Dave and Brian, you didn't hear it, we do a TAs for these. We could always go back later and revisit them if there's anything does pop up.
Definitely. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you
Next
very
up.
much.
Thank you both very, very much.
Yep, thank you.
Did you hear me well, Ann?
Thanks, Ann.
She gave me, she always had a problem with me, that's all right.
Never loud enough.
Thanks again.
Sir?
Thank you.
Compliments of the registrars. One more.
Hello, Rose.
Hello, Joey.
How are you?
I'm well. How about you guys?
Good. What page are you on?
I'm on page,
I can get her going.
This guy had 2 cookies before, he's got that sugar in his veins.
Yeah, wait a couple of seconds. Wait.
I gotta get my glasses on.
Pages 14 and 15, please.
All right.
So everyone knows Rose Ponte, our Economic Development Director. And so Rose, why don't you get started?
Okay, great. Nice to see everybody tonight. And as many of you know from the past, that all of my budget requests are tied to the goals that have been part of, that come from you guys through your strategic plan. And my budget, I like to keep it flat because I think it's very important to have a low mill rate. That's the one tool in my toolbox that I have to attract. So instead of going through a flat budget, I like to usually take this time to give you guys a little glimpse of what's been happening in town in terms of economic development. We always like to say that Farmington is the #1 economic leader in the Hartford region. And you can't really say that, I don't think, without having data to prove it. And so I thought I'd share some of that data. According to our 2023 town profiles, our current residential population has 26,559 residents and 3,337 active businesses, which are employing 32,554 people. So we actually have more people coming to Farmington every day to work than we actually do residents, which really shows the vibrancy of our business community. As of just this last month, according to Ravis, the median residential sale price for a home was $456,250. I've been kind of doing this now for a number of years, and I myself am pretty surprised how these residential prices continue to rise pretty steadily year over year. The median household income is $106,773, and just for a comparison, the state's median income is $83,572. Our current unemployment is 3.8, while the state's is 5.0. That was as of January 2024. And of the 29 towns and cities in the Metro Hartford region, we have the lowest mill rate at 24.21. The other town closest to us would be Windsor Locks. They're at 26.33, and Heartland, which is 27.25. And this low mill rate is not only attracting people to want to come and live here, but really it's a big attraction for businesses to relocate here. Our business base contributes 30% of the taxes collected, which really helps taking that load off of the residential community as much as possible. And when we look at the strength, really, of Farmington's business community, it has to do with how diverse we are. So we have a total of 4.6 million square feet of office space. And while office space nationally is really struggling and having problems because of the new remote work formula, we're looking in Farmington still at a higher than usual vacancy rate. So we're at 11% vacancy rate right now, which is a little bit higher than we usually have. But compared to how some of the other towns and cities are struggling, we're holding our own. And part of that has been that our office building owners have invested use this time during COVID to really reinvest in their buildings, offering lots of amenities. That has been very successful to those office buildings. And then the other thing that's been done is really redevelopment of these office buildings. So underutilized office space, what could it be used for? And a great example of that is recently at 1690 New Britain Avenue. It was over almost 100,000 square feet of underutilized office space. And Mott Corporation came in, were successful in getting a zone change to industrial. So they were able to redevelop 65,000 square feet into very high advanced manufacturing use and hiring 100 new employees. And they're going to be using that facility to help grow their green energy business. So that's just an example of some of the different strategies we're trying to help our businesses do so that vacancy rate doesn't hurt them. So I still say that improving their office space and looking at ways to use underutilized is really a part of our success. It's really the talented workforce, the low taxes, a safe community. That's always the driver that's bringing more businesses, always interested to come to Farmington. Currently, we have 3 residential projects that are under construction. The Pondview Apartments by Fairfield-based Scale-Up Partners. They just finished putting down their foundation, and that's going to be a really beautiful market rate apartment. Marriott Op House is almost completely leased, and by the time they're finished, they'll have a new restaurant and also indoor pickleball courts that people from outside the community can become members of. Sager Development has a new 62-unit mixed income community on South Road, and that's under construction as we speak. And the other projects that have been approved have not started construction yet. So I'll be giving those details throughout the year to all of you. Our industrial space, we have 2.1 million square feet of industrial space, 0 vacancy. It's almost, it's really a tribute to how well our manufacturers are doing. Over the past year, we've had many manufacturers add on to their campuses, and the recent one you might have read today in the Hartford Business Journal is EBM Paps, and they're going to be adding 14,671,000 square feet. So that sector of our economy really is doing well. And then I always like to look at our small businesses, the backbone, I always say, of the business community. They create more jobs, they spend the money, and it goes right back into the community. And this past year, even though it's been a little bit of a difficult year with financing and different market challenges, we still welcome Bollywood Dreams, Bruno's Cafe, The Daily Grind, Capture the Concept, Base Camp, Refresh Food and Drink, Liquid Nirvana, Sugo Trattoria, an expanded New Claudia's, Focus Health Partners, and a newly relocated Green Tails Market. So just to give you a little flavoring of that, because I think it's very important to really grow that entrepreneurial ecosystem, I'm partnering with the Farmington Libraries. It's going to be a great little series, which is going to be called The Entrepreneurial Journey, and the first panel will take place April 23rd, and the panel will consist of all new businesses, and we're calling it Opening Their Doors. They had a dream. How did they get to open their doors? And then on May 14th, we'll follow it up with more seasoned local business owners, and they're going to be calling how they're keeping those doors open. And so we're really hoping that that library starts to become helping with us with the Economic Development Department and continuing to grow those connections in town. And that's all my news.
That's it.
That's it.
We're gonna talk about bioscience.
Oh, well, nothing to report there yet, so I didn't want to talk about it.
Well,
But I could talk about bio if you'd like.
obviously, Rose, I tell you time and time again, you are an asset to our town.
Thank you.
It's very complimenting when you hear this from other people from out of town, other town managers or first selectmen, and how known you are throughout Connecticut. And then obviously when we made state people, that you are just so in touch with everything from manufacturing to our bio. So I can't appreciate or say more of, you do a great
It means
job.
a lot to me.
It's awesome. So we'll open up questions with Brian.
Sure.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Want to say thank you, obviously, for everything that you do for our business development, but also for the outreach and engagement you do for businesses through the newsletters and keeping people informed as to what's available, but also to, the entire town, to our residents, through the engagement newsletter that goes out. Is that weekly?
So we do it every other week.
Every
So
other
there's
week.
2 community newsletters every month. And then there is, I do a quarterly business newsletter, really geared towards businesses. What are the business events and things of that nature, more business focused.
It doesn't grow if they don't know about it, so thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Patty.
I don't have any questions, just to say, again, Rose, you do a great job.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate everything you do. So thanks.
Thanks so much.
Sarah.
I don't have any questions either. I'll just echo the thanks.
Thank you.
That was a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Keith.
All that and a flat budget. What are we talking about? Thank you, Rose. Great job.
Thank you.
Amy.
I echo everything everybody else said. Thank you for your efforts.
And Dave.
Rose, there's nothing more to say. Everybody said it. We totally appreciate your efforts on behalf of Farmington. You take it personally. You put your best foot forward every day with a smile.
Yeah.
And I remember you down in Torrington. We talked a little bit about that
Yeah.
the other day. So, kudos to you.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for all your service. I feel very supported by all of you, and it's a pleasure to come to work every day, so I love what I do, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose.
Make a motion for a tentative approval for pages 14 and 15.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
The next group was on page 17, and I think we have the library here, and I'll ask them to come up. They're on page 17, and they're line item 54608. It's a flat line item of $2,975,000, and that is a 2.8% increase above last year's budget. So I will turn that over to the library group, and you guys will introduce everyone.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I need a better microphone. Hi,
How
thank
are
you
you?
for having us. I'm Jocelyn Kennedy, for those of you I haven't met. I'm the executive director of the library. I've been here since September 5th. I'm a resident of Farmington. I live in Unionville over in the Lake Garda area where we've owned property since 2014. It's really exciting opportunity for me to be able to come back here and be part of this amazing community. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you, and I want to thank the town manager's office and the director of finance and their teams, because they're just incredibly supportive and of great assistance to the libraries. It really is a privilege to work at the Farmington Libraries and bring library joy to our residents every single day. On any given day at the libraries here at the main library on Monteith and across town at the Barney on Main, you'll find families with small children, you'll find teenagers, adults, all in the libraries. And they're there not just to check out books, but to connect with their neighbors and build their own communities within the broader community of Farmington. And it's really amazing to be part of that journey. I invite you to visit the main library at 10 a.m. on Friday mornings or the Barney on Tuesdays at 10:45, where you'll find 50 or 60 toddlers and their caregivers as they leave our Tots and Tunes and Movers and Groovers program and make their way into our kids' space. There you'll see our earliest learners making new friends and exploring new spaces. You'll also see parents and grandparents and caregivers building foundational relationships that they might carry through their children's development and growth and into their own retirement as Farmington residents. It's truly amazing. And the building at that time of day is just buzzing with like unfettered joy and exuberance. There is nothing more invigorating than a bunch of toddlers having a really great time. And then come back in the afternoon at 2:30 when the high school bell rings and 50 to 100 students descend upon the library. They overflow our spaces. They extend past our team space across the entire second floor of the building where they work on their homework or they unwind from their day. And it's noisy, it's controlled chaos, the energy levels are through the roof. But there's something really magical about seeing teenagers just being teenagers, doing their things in a space that is safe and has a loose structure while allowing them to be themselves. We also provide first-time jobs for teens through our PAGE program, and we really rely heavily on our teen volunteers to help with many of our larger events. So we're deeply grateful to be so close to the high school here at the main library where we can build those connections. On Tuesdays and Thursdays throughout the day, right, so I'm telling you all the times to come to the library, the second floor is home to the town's adult education English as a second language classes. It is truly delightful to provide space and this learning environment for our newest residents here in town and in our adjacent community. They're learning, and from my office, I can hear them and watch them grow in confidence as they master a new language and a new culture. It's truly inspiring. Throughout the day, community members use our study rooms and our meeting rooms to convene, to work, and to develop. They use our computers and our digital resources to grow their businesses, to share their expertise and knowledge with each other, and to create connections. Community members browse our shelves, they settle into comfortable chairs to read the newspaper or good book, they start conversations with each other, they meet new friends. It's really quite amazing. Local creators are in our space building and creating in our maker space. A gentleman was in the other day building a park. He makes guitars out of cigar boxes, and it was like, who knew? Really cool. The whole space is vibrant and alive, and sometimes it's even quiet. The libraries also aren't just for people who can travel to our physical spaces. Our outreach program delivers reading materials and oftentimes the only human connection some of our homebound community members get on a weekly basis. We visit both folks in their individual homes, and we're also visiting many of the facilities across town where folks are in residence. They can't travel to us, so we go to them and bring the library joy into their homes. Our digital resources are available to anyone with a library card and an internet connection. When they download a book from the library onto their phone or stream a movie in their living room, they're bringing the library into their spaces. The library truly is wherever our patrons are, and that is an incredible thing. Libraries are all about partnerships. If you take a walk up the main stairwell in the library here at the main library, you'll find an amazing art installation from students in Beth Reiser's art installation class here at the high school. You'll see book bags by the mailboxes here in Town Hall. Those are deliveries of library materials to classroom teachers across the school district. You'll find our librarians at Westwoods leading an after-school book club. We collaborate with the school district to provide early math and reading literacy programs to 4- and 5-year-olds in our school readiness program. In April, as Rose said, we're partnering with economic development on programming for our local entrepreneurs, and we're hoping that we'll be able to turn that into a series and bring our new and creative future business owners into our spaces and help them build relationships with each other. And we're just really grateful for these partnerships and the many other partnerships we have across town. Since the start of this fiscal year 24, almost 16,000 people have attended library programs. Our meeting rooms were booked or reserved 3,500 times. Local creators used our makerspace for over 800 hours. Our librarians answered over 27,000 questions and lent more than 165,000 physical items to our residents. And we issued 859 new library cards to new residents. We want to continue to increase that number, as currently more than half of our residents still need to come to get their library card, so I don't know, y'all. All of these services really are made possible by the support we receive annually from the town through your grant, as well as the generosity of the Friends of the Farmington Libraries and the FVGLA. Even more, none of these wonderful things at the Farmington Libraries would exist without our greatest asset, which is the staff of the library, who daily build and maintain our collections and our relationships with and experiences for our community members. In fiscal year 25, the town's grant to the library, with a modest increase of $86,000 over last year, will support the amazing resources and services I've described above. We will also be reviewing our staffing and salaries to ensure that we are competitive in this tight market and are able to attract and retain the best library staff in the area. In 2025, we will embark on setting new priorities and strategies that allow us to find a new horizon for growth at the Farmington Libraries that continues to complement and support the incredible work of our community-focused town departments and continues to provide a center for community here in Farmington. And finally, I want to invite each of you to join us, in addition to all those other days that I'd love to see you in the library, I want to invite each of you to join us on Sunday, March 24th from 1 to 4 for our third Maker Fair, featuring high and low tech maker crafts and science skills, and early evening on June 17th in the parking lot for our summer reading kickoff. Thanks again for your consideration and your support, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Well, thank you very much. And obviously, having two children, that was a great space when they were younger, when my wife would bring them to just talk with other moms, let the kids sit there, run around, get rid of their energy. And now I've come into the library a lot and so used to hearing kids and waiting for the librarian going, shh.
Not
But
anymore.
you created that space now where they can come down there, release some of that energy, be with their friends, be kids. So you're doing a fantastic job there.
Thank you.
I'll open up the questions. Dave.
Again, I want to welcome again.
Thank
You're,
you.
I want to compliment the library, the things that happen there on a yearly basis, and just the programming that you're talking about is just fantastic. I think, libraries are evolving, right? I mean, you know that better than anyone, right? And so there's different things that you can see as your vision, looks out. You're integrating and bringing in. I think those are all positive movements. It's a modest increase, and we appreciate the fact that you're able to live within the modest increase. I guess my question is, what do you see down the road a little bit, maybe even beyond this year, as things that you see maybe that you would like to achieve, or like you think that you're making incremental progress to maybe evolve the library into something?
I think one of our challenges, and it's an opportunity, and I know you've heard this from the town manager because it's the case across town. We are an aging building, our aging spaces. So when I say that the teenagers come down and we have 50 or 80 teenagers, if you come to the library, the teen space is relatively small. It's actually smaller than the town council room. So our teens now are literally occupying the entire second floor of the library. So we really need to revision that space and what it means and how we want to be engaged with our teenagers and how we can fit them into the library space in a way that doesn't foreclose that space to other people. So that's one sort of challenge / opportunity that we have. My vision really is to find as many community connections and pull us all together. So libraries are cultural heritage organizations, just like many of the other organizations in town. And I think there's lots of opportunities for us to continue to partner with other nonprofits as well as town agencies to to really meet our residents where they are, whether that's here in the building or where they reside, and provide them with opportunities to build deeper connections within the community. Because that's the thing that's going to get people to stay here. It's what helps people that graduate from high school, they go away to college. Some people move back to town, some people don't, right? So what are the things that we can do, start building that foundation that really helps our community members feel grounded here, especially our younger community members, so that they'll come back. And I'm really interested, and I'll stop talking. 'cause
No,
people go on
that's fine.
forever.
No, they have, you
I'm
know,
really
it's lucky
interested-
that I went first, that's all.
There you go.
So I can
the
kind of.
questions will be shorter. I'm really interested in figuring out a way to connect with our community members who are in this gap space. So we have lots of families and parents, and when their kids sort of age out of our children's room, we don't see those parents anymore because they've got lots of stuff going on.
Sure.
And then we see people come back around the time that they retire. So there's this gap, right? Where we don't see people because they're living their best lives somewhere else. And ought they to be in the library? I would say yes. I think it creates, there's not a lot of spaces where you can sort of collide with your neighbors if you don't have a reason. And for lots of people in town, the reason is sports and kids and education or shared interests. So those are some of the things.
Great, thank you. Thank you for
You're
your
welcome.
answers.
Sure.
Amy?
I have no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your presentation. It was very good.
This should be a long one. Go ahead, Keith.
I'll keep it short. I think anybody that was here, I know that's not everybody, a couple of years ago for the budget presentation from the library prior to Terry taking over, and the difference between even just that budget presentation and this budget presentation between board meetings prior to what they're like now and to what the actual library feels like now in comparison to under previous leadership. I think anybody that's been dialed into the library would say it's just a vast improvement all around. And it's not to besmirch anybody that came before, it's just to say what we have now is really, really great, and I think it's building towards something even better, and it's a credit to the people that are in charge and that helped steward us through the two regimes. So thank you for that. The thing that we are lucky to have now from the new leadership is we have a forward-facing leadership that is out and about, a member of the community. The thing that you touched on about community connections is very important, utilizing the synergies that you can create within town hall, be it Rose or Kathy or anybody else, I think is incredibly smart and something good for the libraries to be doing. And then the last thing I'll say, which I took note of in our last board meeting, as part of your budget. I mean, you've already done things like I know we pulled all the weeds out of the drains and fixed some of that stuff. Anybody doesn't remember Jocelyn's second day on the job, she was bucketing water from one of the areas, so she has been in it, from the get-go, in whatever capacity necessary. But when you said you wanted to attract and maintain the best staff possible, I know you're proactively helping to get more money in the pockets of your staff to keep people and retain good staff. And as somebody who employs people too, it's just the job market's changing, and you really have to stay ahead of that stuff if you want to keep good people. It's easier, I think, to pay more for a good person than to go out and try to find someone at a lower level. So it's just smart. We're doing the right things at the library. So thank you, and that's it. Sorry. No questions. Just wanted to hear
Thank
myself
you.
talk. Yeah, sorry.
Sarah?
I don't have any questions either. Just, I really enjoyed your passion and energy and what you spoke about.
Come on to the library.
Patty?
No questions, but I want to have a shout out to the Seed Library at Barney Library. My daughter and I went last year. She got such a kick out of it. We planted a lot of beans. So
Come back,
And
we have
we're-
more seeds.
we will. I'm just always impressed by how many things the library offers that are not books or traditional media, and it's just fantastic.
Thank you.
Brian?
I just want to say, as a former library board member, I really appreciate and support everything you guys do. And I was curious about those in-betweeners, because I was thinking about that all along. Are we doing, and I just don't know, are we doing much hybrid programming to bring people who are in the library, engage them, but also people who are interested in the library but at home and not coming in?
What we have found is that the virtual event attendance has dropped off significantly as people have emerged from the COVID moment. So one of the things I've been talking to my programming librarian about is maybe less about the virtual where somebody is in their home participating in a program at the library, but our ability to bring in people from all over the country to present on topics that might pull that age group into the library, because we can have those people attend as presenters virtually, which I think will give us the opportunity to expose our community to a broader sort of type of programming
would be lovely.
that I think would appeal to those folks who are in between.
And
Our
has
bookends.
digital publications or digital lending, has that had any impact of the number of people who are visiting the library?
No, well, it's hard for me to answer that question accurately because of the COVID gap, where we really saw a decline in people coming into the building, and we're now sort of where we were in 2019, and it's pretty even. It's hard to say whether or not the digital access will lead to a decline in physical presence in the library. Right now, we're really not seeing it's kind of where we were pre-COVID.
No, I'm hoping that we keep everyone engaged, even if it's digital.
Yeah. Well, and we have lots of people checking out materials through the online spaces, and an equal amount of physical items being circulated from our library. So I think it's a nice balance between what you can sort of read in your own home and what you come into the library to collect.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. You're doing a great job. Thank you to your staff
Thanks.
and to your board.
Thank you. We will pass it along.
Kathy, do we
Yeah, TA.
do a TA just in this line item then? Because we have Interpol House and everybody else still.
Yeah, I just think you TA the line item on the page. Kathy, do we just TA the line item on the page or the whole page?
I just TA the line item.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I make a motion for a tentative approval for line item 54608 on page 17.
Second?
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes.
Hi, Tim.
Someone's undercover.
I apologize for not being in uniform. We were at a training all day. Came
I remember
from
those days.
Yeah, came from Southington here, so
How are you, Chief?
undercover for sure. I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Do you want to introduce your second?
Yeah, Captain Tim McKenzie, for those who haven't met him. Tim and I have been here. We're in our 25th year. We came in together. So here we are.
Thank you. It's the sugar. What do you expect? There's 2 cookies. Blame Amy.
He's gonna crash at like 6. He's gonna need some coffee.
No more cookies.
No more cookies. I apologize for
You gave him cookies. Is that what's going on here?
Yes. We're going to be on pages 26,
31.
26 to 31.
No, it starts on 31.
I'm sorry. Let's get our pages right.
26 to 31.
31.
No, it starts at 31. 31.
30, yep, hold on.
And if you want to make it for the record, I did train both of
Is
these
me.
people.
Here we go. Yep.
All right. So it's, what is it, Kat?
Police is on 31 to 39, and then communications is after that. So we'll start with those ones.
Good. All right, so just to let you know on, get myself organized here, hold on. The police department's overall budget is 3.09%. Their salaries are included in those accounts, and so the reality of it is it's almost a decrease. It's very flat. There is no seasonal help in the police department. There were seasonal employees, used to be seasonal employees hired in the summer months to patrol the various walking trails and parks. We eliminated those. We're not able to bring them back. That would be the second year. The other item of interest is that the budget only funds 2 new 24-hour police vehicles. The police department vehicle maintenance plan recommends replacing 3 24-hour vehicles, but we were not able to go back to 3. Other than that, it's a pretty flat budget. And does anyone have any questions?
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we want to go in a row? I can
No,
wait.
we'll go with you.
The seasonal help, because I know we cut that last year as part of the cost-saving measures last year. Did you find any significant outcomes from that, be it, vandalism on the trails, or, I don't know what you would find as,
No, I would say overall, we were able to manage it
Okay.
with patrol. If the incidents rise up, it would have been nice to have that.
Yeah.
But I think overall in the summer and during the hot months, we didn't see as much activity on the river. I think, some places for people to cool off in the city and for the people that have been coming in that don't live in town, I think that has flattened out. So I think we were able to absorb it.
people might have known not, if they got arrested, they would have been in your place, which has no AC.
Right, yeah.
So they're on their best behavior to make sure.
Very good point.
Yeah. Thank you.
I do think, though, that with the trails, that we do get quite a bit of compliments when we do have a lot of people on the trails patrolling and things like that. And I'm hopeful, even though I know Colin said, or the chief said, that we handle it, but it really isn't that great of having a police officer when you could have a much lower paid person on the trail. And luckily, last year, we did overall not have as much action on the trails as that we've had in the past. So again, we're hopeful that, we'll make do, and obviously the police will be out there when we need to. But I think we are, and one of the things I was going to talk about a little bit, and with all the departments, with the 2.8% budget, there is reductions of service in our town operation. I think we're going to still be able to maintain a high level of service, but you are starting to chip away at things, and this would be the second year that we are chipping away. And when we talk to Russ and you talk to all the departments, and one of the things you'll see, and that what the departments asked for and what I have given them, there's a substantial change in it. I think Kat can pull it up, that I forgot what we wrote in my report, but I think it was over $1 million that I took out of this budget. And so it's very, very flat, and it's actually a reduction. And every department is gonna say all the different things that they're missing out of it, because I think we are still maintaining a level of service. But I do want to make it clear in each of the departments that we are chipping away at the services, so.
Amy?
Well, we appreciate your sacrifices for the taxpayers, definitely.
Thank you.
And we appreciate everything you do. So hopefully, things will change for you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, definitely appreciate your service and your dedication, and, the whole police force and, what they do. We definitely, I think, I would speak more to what Kathy just said. I think it's the chipping away, right? That's, that we understand it, and I think, some of my questions over the past few days, that chipping away, finally, we're gonna need to, address that, and we're gonna need to help every department in some kind of material way, to make sure we don't compromise operations to the point where, there is an incident, and we wish that, for whatever reasons, we might have come together and put more funding in a certain spot. But if you had to prioritize any of the cuts that you've had to make or the sacrifices, is there something that's on the top of the list that you would definitely kick back in, or something that you've had to reduce a little bit? Is there a priority, I guess, is my question, that you see it would be the first thing you would do if more money was available?
Well, in order to maintain services, people, so the summer help is something that, we really enjoyed having, because it takes a little bit of a burden off of those district cars. But if you're talking about materials and equipment, we're gonna get to a point where we have to address the fleet in a more substantial way. We've done a great job working with Joe over the last couple of years, where we had to really weather a shortage of vehicles, and it wasn't a budget thing, it was, availability. So we have been able to get a shipment of vehicles that came in to replenish our fleet that were due to us in past budgets. So that's why we're able to maintain it. But to continue to chip away on a yearly basis, we're gonna eventually feel that. So that would probably be my
one of your top priorities. you
Going
know,
forward,
right,
where
going
we have to address that so we don't end up in a bad situation.
Yeah.
But right now, we're able to maintain.
Right, no, thank you. And thank you for, your assessment. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Sarah?
I don't have any specific questions. Just thank you for everything. And I'll just give a little special shout out. My kids are in the elementary schools and they talk about the officers who come to the school. And just yesterday, Abby was saying how Officer Alicia helped her with something in the school and how great that was. And of course, they love Nash.
Yeah.
So,
Nash
Thank
is
you.
the most popular
yeah, he is the
officer.
most popular.
Yeah, he gets most popular, for sure. But we appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you
The
for
school
all.
officers, that's a tough gig, and
Yeah.
they do a great job.
They do.
So
They
we're
really
lucky
do.
to have them.
Thank you.
Patty?
I will, I guess, in some ways reiterate or piggyback on what Dave said. And picking up on the chief's comments about what he really want back, people, summer help. As a runner, someone who runs alone, I always had great comfort seeing the occasional patrol officer, even if it was just because if I'd gotten tripped and fallen and gotten injured, to me there was that added assurance that there would be help eventually. And I really am disappointed that we can't bring that back this year. I think it's a really important contribution to the town and to safety. But I do have one question on page 35. At the top line, the full-time line is increasing from the actual or estimated for 12 months by close to $120,000. I'm just wondering, is that a contractual base change or what's the trigger for the change? Because it looks like the full-time counts are staying the same.
Joe, if you can field that one.
Yeah, basically what it is periodically the police department shifts where people are paid from. So this is really a shifting of some of the personnel from either patrol or from special services into this unit. For example, sometimes but basically that's really what it would boil down to is a shifting of personnel. There's no change in personnel, no additional personnel. It's just a matter of somebody went from one division to another division.
Okay, thanks. I don't have anything else.
Brian?
Thank you. Like everyone else, thank you for everything you do, and it is a real comfort seeing you guys out there. You're very visible. Appreciate seeing you there and at the mall. So thank you for all that you do. And I just did have one question on page 33, because I want to make sure we're not missing anything. That is, this 23-24 estimate was higher than we anticipated at 448, and we're down to 321 and change. And I just want to make sure we're not missing something essential there.
Joe, can you talk on that one?
And again, that's another position shift.
Okay, I mean, I didn't know, but I just wanted to ask, make sure that,
One of the things that I'm finding out is when you shift administrations from one chief to another chief, chiefs like to put people in different, they classify people in different ways. So, sometimes an SRO would be, under one chief, an SRO would be an investigation, and another place an SRO would be in patrol or in special projects. So what I do is I follow wherever the chief puts his people and I move the money around.
as long as you're comfortable, I just wanted to
The
ask.
numbers are the same for a number of people.
Okay,
So, yep.
The numbers of people have not changed, it's just where they're being paid from.
fair enough. I appreciate that. Just want to make sure you're covered.
Yep, we're good. Thank you, Brian.
You got it.
Well, I think that's all for the questions, but thank you for everything. I've always supported you 100%. Great work last month at the mall with everything that was going on. Couldn't imagine how big of an area you had to cover, especially for tracking 5 multiple suspects and the recovery of the handgun. So a great job, and especially with the help of Hartford and West Hartford. So
For sure.
you're doing
Thank
awesome
you.
out there.
Appreciate it.
Town of Farmington is very fortunate for our police department. We have a great police department, and they work really, it's really a blessing for us.
It is. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, guys. Make a motion to tentatively approve pages 31 through 39.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the
Opposed?
next one for the chief is page 40 and 41.
That motion passes. Now you're cutting me off.
Yeah, see?
No more cookies.
No more cookies.
Kathy needs one.
40 and 41 are the communication center, and that's our dispatch. And let me see what the, and CMed. And so the overall increase in the community center is 1.23%, and CMed is 0.31%. So very flat, and this is our dispatch center. And our EMS service, that is, Colin, what is that again?
That's the state, everybody has to belong to CMed, when we have something that's beyond our scope, and it gets dispatched out for assistance from, other medical facilities.
That's right.
Then we have to pay that every year.
Here, standard.
Correct.
Got it.
Does it show in here how much Burlington pays for the dispatching we do for them?
That's in the,
Revenue.
Revenue, okay, thank you.
when we talk about revenue,
No problem, thank you. Brian, have any questions?
I do not.
Patty?
No questions.
Sarah?
No questions.
Keith?
No questions.
Amy?
No questions?
And Dave?
I'm all set.
Make a motion for a tentative approval for pages 40 and 41.
Second?
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Captain.
Appreciate it.
Godspeed, gentlemen.
All right, have a good night.
We're going to do fire next with Tom.
That's backwards.
At pages 26 through 30. Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Everyone knows Tom, our fire director. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, 27.
How are you, Mr. Fitzgerald?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, sir. Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.
So the fire department budget, just overall, is flat or under. It's at a 1.43% increase. There's really not much to talk about. It's pretty standard. So I don't know if you have any specific questions on it. We do have the 2 fire trucks for the bonding, which is important for us. But other than that, Tom is now, what, in your second year?
Yes.
Second year, really getting used to the department, the volunteers, and the paid staff. And one of the things maybe to mention a little bit is that we have had a little bit of turnover in the career fire department. But we are working to continue to recruit for the career firefighters. But it is a difficult situation because just how our system is set up, it's not a traditional kind of a career fire department. You don't have a lot of room for advancement. And so it isn't that uncommon for the career people to turn over, but we have had some turnover, which has been driving up some overtime cost and things like that. But our volunteers have been available, and Tom and I have been going through a lot of different things in the budget now that he's been here 2 years, and just looking at how the organization is run and some different things. So we feel good about it, and we've been checking different response times and different things just to see where we're at, and we feel pleased with some of that.
Excellent. Sarah?
I don't have any questions.
Patty?
I just have a question, page 28. I don't, it's just more of a terminology. Per diem firefighter, what does that mean?
You want to answer that, Tom?
Sure. So the per diem people are mostly volunteers, and they're able to work in the other firehouses that they don't volunteer in. So they're essentially part-timers, but they're just not allowed to work in their own firehouses that they volunteer in. They're really they're a big part of how we've been able to fill positions the past couple of months with the departures that we've had. So that's essentially, they're qualified, they have all the certifications of a regular firefighter, they're just titled per diem, but they're essentially part-timers. They just can't work in the same firehouse that they volunteer in.
And that has to do, Patty, with union issues and things like that.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else.
Brian?
Nothing other than to say thank you for the first response work that you guys do. I mean, I see out there in some tough spots, and I appreciate you being there.
Yep, we very fortunate to have a very, very good fire department in the town. So the volunteers and the career people all do a great job.
Busy. Busy. When we've been looking at some of the numbers and the responses and things like that, so amazed how many medical calls and things that the fire department goes on, and the volunteers and both the career. Tom came from New Haven, and he always says very impressed with both our volunteers and our career staff.
Thank you. Dave?
I guess again, I think Kathy mentioned it. I mean, the career people, right? There's only so much movement in the scale of operation that we have. Obviously, that leads to departures and things like that. How many departures have we had in the near term?
We recently had three people out of the 9.
Okay, 3 out of the 9.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, with the per diem, we're not missing anything because we have great volunteers, and you're positioning the volunteers in different houses where they need their expertise is there, so we're covered. Do you think we'll be able to fill those departures?
Yeah, we actually have 2 people who are in the final steps of background.
Okay.
So in the next week or so, we should have at least 2 of those positions filled.
Okay, great. That was my one question.
Thank you. Amy?
I want to thank you for your service. My son was a volunteer EMT for Tunx's Hose for many years. And I know how hard he worked and how many I was amazed at how many calls there are throughout the town. And I don't know how you do it with the level of level of people that you have, but I do appreciate it. Do the departures go to other towns, or what is the?
Typically, they go to bigger departments.
Bigger departments.
Yeah,
Okay.
bigger departments. And as a career person, we don't have a tremendous amount of overtime where, a bigger fire department would have that. We're really a daytime fire department, which has its benefits too for some of the firefighters, because they have their weekends off and some different things which you wouldn't typically have if you were in a fire department like New Haven. And so it does have some advantages, but some of the firefighters, they look and they go to bigger places. I think Portland was one, Portland, Maine.
Yep, Portland, Maine, one to Memphis, one to Milford.
Oh, wow.
So different places.
Wow.
Yeah, and we should probably, they're not here tonight, but give a shout out to our volunteer chiefs and, our regular volunteers, but really our chiefs, a tremendous amount of volunteer time with the training and the calls. And like I said, we've been just reviewing some different things and how the chiefs are at like every call that goes. They're such an asset to the town of Farmington.
They are. Keith?
I had a question on that staffing too, just to piggyback. I know that's been all the questions have been. Do we tend to attract to those full-time positions, to your point about the schedule being a little bit more workable, do we tend to attract newer firefighters that are kind of getting their foot in the door, or do we tend to attract people that have had longer careers that are looking for a change of pace?
I would say it's typically newer firefighters.
Okay.
We'd like to attract those kind of, retirees looking for their second,
Swing at
career at our fire department. But it's been a little bit more on the newer firefighters.
Okay.
And a lot of times our career firefighters were volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they go volunteer to career, and then maybe if they want to go someplace where they can become a lieutenant or a captain,
Right.
we are sort of capped off at that stuff, right?
Exactly. But one of the things that Kat had said, where we are trying to look at maybe retiree firefighters, to come, instead of we haven't really seen that, because as Tom always says, that if he knew that he could work 9 to 5 and not work on weekends, that,
Yeah, that's why
retire and
as I heard you say that, I was thinking maybe you want to get
have your second career as a firefighter wouldn't be too bad.
Wouldn't be bad at all.
At least we have a great farm system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So if that's all the questions, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Make a motion for tentative approval for pages 26 through 30.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks.
Tom, again, thanks to you and the volunteers.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good job.
Best haircut in town.
Yeah. Jealous?
No, listen, I'm modeling it for him.
Everyone knows Russ Arnold, and he has a bunch of different pages, so maybe we'll start at the beginning. We have pages 43 through 53. Why don't we start there? So this is Public Works and Highway, and just some things, just make some overall comments about it. The overall Public Works, Highway and Grounds, and Engineering is a decrease of 1.5%. So Public Works is unfortunately an area where, again, public safety, the police and fire, we're funding it a little bit higher than Public Works, and Public Works has seen some decreases in the last couple of years, or it's very flat. There's really, I don't think, there's no summer help funded in the highway department. And again, with what Colin was saying on the Rails to Trails, that's a relatively new program, but really the seasonal help in the highway department is a big hit. That is a big hit because of the fact that it's the busy time for, I would call it the quality of life type of issues where they can help do the pocket parks, the weeding, the trash pickup, the things like that. So we weren't able to bring that back this year. We only had one seasonal employee at Westwood's Golf Course instead of two. I think, Russ, correct me if I'm wrong, we do bring over a highway person.
Right, we lose a highway guy to go over and help maintain the golf course.
Of course, so we have one less highway person, which again is difficult because during that time of the year, it's a busy time for the highway department. And the only other thing, just to note, and I wrote the numbers down somewhere, we switched people. In the Highway and Grounds Department, we eliminated a capital projects position, and in the engineering and, in the building department, we had an assistant building official, but it's just different employees. And Kat, maybe you can get the pages just so I could show just where it is.
So the building inspector is on page 42, and you'll see the full-time account has increased, and that is the money from the capital projects leader position was kind of filtered into this account.
And so if you go to the other account.
Yep, so then if you go to, it's in the full-time account, that is
I'm sorry.
44. Page 44, in the full-time line, the capital and projects leader has been removed from this one. You can actually see it on the narrative side, where last year the projects leader there was one position, and now we're proposing 0. So that eliminates that one from this account.
And that position was we didn't have the position. And so we have some vacancies, and so we couldn't fill that position, and instead we filled building official positions. And why that happened was because we had an early retirement, I would say relatively unexpected retirement of our building inspector. And when we went out for building inspectors, we actually found 2 building inspectors, which was really, really great because of the fact with how busy we are and also with the high school project. So we wound up filling 2 building officials and not having the capital projects person. So you can see both in the accounts, it's same total amount of employees in the division, but just in different spots.
Questions, Brian?
I was just gonna ask what we just covered about, the challenge of doing it without summer help for you, because.
Yeah, the complaints still can come in. We pick up garbage on the Rails to Trails on Mondays and Fridays. It takes away from grass cutting, striping, things like that. And as you all may or may not be aware, that we maintain all the fields for the high school programs and recreation. So we're pulling typically 2 people from the Parks Department for about 4 to 5 hours on Monday and Friday to go and pick up all the garbage at all the parks. Tungus Mead, Little League, down to Rails to Trails, which is, as Kathy said before, it's slowed down since COVID. During COVID, it was crazy. But we're pretty much normaling off, but it still takes a lot of time and effort. Listen, I pick up garbage when I walk the trail, and it is what it is, and people look at me kind of strange, but That's how I am, right? But I don't want that impression just because we don't have bodies that we're not taking care of what we own. So that's what we do. And like, some people aren't happy that, people call. The biggest thing we get is people will pick up after their dog and then leave the bag on the side of the trail.
I see that all the time. It's insane.
I don't understand it. You're better off leave the mess as it is and let it disintegrate, but now you've just preserved it for as long as the age of the bag. So it is what it is, but the complaints come in. It is what it is. We deal with it, and we get on a rotation, and we address those areas as needed.
Well, thank you to you and your staff for covering that, because I know it's not easy.
Yeah.
No, we have over 12 miles of trail.
Well, one of the things that we did a while back, and Russ and his whole engineering staff, they're really, we're short-staffed as it is, just because it's hard to fill vacancies and things of that nature, and their budgets are low. But one of the things we did way back, I don't know, a long time ago, is that we made the whole department the Public Works Division. And what that enables us to be able to do is that even if you work in the treatment plant, you're a public works person, and that if you have a CDL and everyone's required to, they can plow snow for us, and we pull people. And so our contracts are set up that someone in the highway department can go to the Westwoods Golf Course. And I have to say that that's actually very unusual in municipalities of when you have a unionized workforce, that we have that flexibility. And thank gosh we do, because we really need to pull people from the treatment plant. And again, right now, we're having trouble filling positions, and it's just the economy and things of that nature. But between Russ and his direct reports really do a good job of really shifting people around to try to make do for what we have. But that said, again, that there is going to be, and I think you'll see it more in the Highway and Grounds Division, a chipping away of things between equipment, not funding equipment the way we should be, and really the operating budget the way we should be. We're still, I think, high level of service, but I think I call it the quality of life things that you're going to see. And I think, Russ, you wanted to talk a little bit about that the mower for the that's in the Capitol. That it's just that I added that back in, and how pleased you were that it went back into my budget. And I know we have to talk about Capitol, whether we'll be able to keep it in there, but when I saw Jim Basin today at the thing, he was saying that they were welding the wheels or something along those lines.
So one of our mowers is probably older than all of your cars that we have, both of our mowers. And late last fall, the back axle broke. And being the fall, we got done with the season. Now it's coming time, we gotta get it fixed. Can't find an axle. They don't make them anymore, and it's basically impossible. There's no mower graveyard that we can go to and pull one off. So one thing we were very fortunate to have is very talented people who work for us. And one of the guys down the garage he's going to get some steel pipe. He's going to cut it, weld it onto the tire and the frame to create a space that we can weld the axle to, weld the tire to, so that there's something to actually hold the tire in place to the frame, which is not a great remedy, but it's a remedy to help get the mower back on service and get out and continue to mow that we need to mow for the fairway.
Until it breaks.
Huh?
Until it breaks.
Until it breaks again. Yes, it's, and you won't, again, I've said it before, you don't hear me complain, it is what it is, but people need to realize that things are breaking down, they are getting older. How many people have a 1990 vehicle in their driveway? We've got about a dozen, that are that vintage, not from a truck to a mower to equipment. And it's a good thing and a bad thing, but we're really, as with the fire truck, as you've heard, we're getting to a point where you'll see that our expenditures for maintenance, it's not maintenance, it's repair work.
Yeah.
You're not just changing oil.
You're just chasing problems.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
Exactly. 100%. But again, it is what it is. We still got to get our things done and take care of what we got to take care of. We have over 50 acres of field space that we got to maintain. And how many of you want to get a complaint on Saturday morning from 1,200 angry parents that the grass is unplayable, or it's 4 inches or 5 inches tall, right? It's just, nobody wants to hear that. But we do it, and we get through and do what we got to do. And It's a challenge some weeks. Some weeks it's a real challenge. And when we got to keep pulling people to change things and chase things down, it's tough. And then, as you all may be aware, that we do, besides placing the blacktop on our roadways for our paving bond, we do everything else in-house. We put things out to bid when we have to, but we can do things quicker and faster and more economical than hiring a contractor. And if we hire a contractor and everyone pushes, oh, we've got to do more paving, we've got to do more paving. Well, there's only, we go off the vendor in place paving program through the state of Connecticut. Tilcon is the vendor this past couple of years. They only have so many paving crews that have to pave in about 60 different towns. So when do you pave? When everyone else is paving, right? So it's not like, oh, we'll pave in January because it's not happening. We're fighting the schedule. We're already on the schedule for our next 2 rounds. We've got on back in November and told them, here's when we're ready and we got to go. Because if you don't, you're coming into October and November and it's not a good situation at that point. That said, if we hire contractors to do the work we do, our road bond gets depleted quicker. So our road paving gets depleted. So that's why that's the method to our madness. Scott Zinke and I decided that 20 years ago. And we've proven the fact that we do a lot of paving. More so if you talk to any other towns, some of our counterparts are like, you did what? You know, you did how much? And we did, because we do it. And our guys, this is our custom now. We don't dabble in it, we do it. And our guys go out and we get very few complaints during our paving program. And it's been very successful and we're very proud of that.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that because the budgets are so tight, and it actually, and it's a good thing in some ways, it forces us really to reevaluate how we're doing things. And Jim Rosbason is relatively new as our superintendent, and sometimes it's nice to have a fresh set of eyes come in and look at stuff and say, are we really doing it the best way we could be doing it? And now sometimes we're just forced because we just don't have the personnel and say, well, why don't we do it this way? And again, we all get set in our ways sometimes, and we just keep on doing it. And Jim is like, no, well, I think we can do it this way. I think it would be better. And it does, they're always thinking about different ways of how to do different things. So.
And one thing I would like to say about the building inspector, I know I'm going to get yelled at later or tomorrow morning. I'm digressing.
I never yell.
Okay. One thing that everyone has to realize, and Kathy kind of alluded to it, was that we haven't had 2 building inspectors for about 15 years. So we've been operating under 1 building inspector. We've tried hiring other building inspectors. We couldn't find one that would work. So it's difficult when you only have 1 person, whether they're sick or on vacation. People have grown accustomed to, and Chris Forian did an excellent job by himself, and Steve did a good job when he was here. But people don't want to wait. They want to keep building and keep moving. And it was tough, and even finding part-time people to do building inspections was tough. So during our transition, when we found these 2, I went to Kathy and we had a long discussion about it. And not only with the high school going on, we've got 5 apartment building projects, 3 are underway. We have a lot of work coming up, and in addition to our typical residential permits that go on. So that's part of the background of having the 2 building inspectors. We cover more ground. It's basically 24-hour, and you're getting an inspection. People will call with an emergency, and we take care of that as things come up. But there are other towns in our surrounding area that have a 2 or 3 week waiting period. I mean, I couldn't do it, right? I'd lose my mind if I said, oh, I'll see you in 3 weeks, and it's not acceptable here in Farmington. So part of that was my plea to Kathy to get the 2 building inspectors and cash in that other position was for that, and especially with our upcoming development projects that are on the horizon and here. Thank you.
I lost track. I think we're at Patty now for questions.
Russ, I just want to say your folks do a really good job in my neighborhood. We have a couple of small swaths of land that our town owned, and I know I've seen folks out mowing on Saturday afternoon. So I know that they're really busy and you're doing, you're making everything work. And the creative solutions of having everyone sort of like contractually obligated to be pushed and pulled to what's needed, I think that probably helps a lot with just in terms of figuring out staffing and trying to make things work. So I don't think I have any questions other than on the question about the material and supplies line regarding road salt on page 47. It's more of a curiosity point. When do we purchase road salt? Because I know I see the 7-month actual is 1644, but the estimate is 167,000.
So we purchase basically throughout the year. We're required to purchase salt, a minimum of, Joe? How many tons?
700 tons.
We got to purchase a minimum of 700 tons. So we try to, a couple years ago, we had a light winter, so we were able to put more salt in the barn, and we try to keep our barn full, but we have to buy 700 tons every year. And they're required to supply that plus 150%. Or 50%? What's the number they got to give us for, if we need it?
We have to buy 50% of what we tell them we think we're going to use for the year. So regardless of how much we use, we have to buy at least 50%.
Right.
So we tell them we're going to buy 1,400 tons, so we have to buy
700.
So in a normal, usual winter we use about 12 to 1,400 tons of salt. So we're gearing, and if we put that in, then we have to buy half of that. So what we try to do is, right now, assuming it's not going to snow again this year, we probably won't use
How
salt.
dare you?
We'll take stock of what's in the salt shed, and we'll fill the shed at this point to meet our quota. I don't think we've met our quota yet.
Yeah.
So we'll meet our quota this year. And then next year, as we start to draw it down, they'll start to reorder. So,
Right. So we're basically purchasing it throughout the year as we need it.
Thank you.
The sugars were enough, so Brian, right?
Just a quick question.
Thank you.
Do we ever sell any surplus salt? Do we ever do that, or do we just hold
We
on
could
to
make a deal if you want to do something.
You want some-
If that's your suggestion, I'm good with it. No, we do not sell anything.
Will you
I don't know
drop
if
it
anyone
off?
was ever short, we could help.
If we have problems, we'll work with other towns. We have a couple towns that we work exclusively with. If they need something or they run up for whatever reason, deliveries didn't come, we work back and forth. It's 1 for 1. We don't lose anything. They don't lose anything. We have very good relationships with a couple adjoining towns.
Excellent.
So that everyone's taken care of, because, we all need to be safe, so, yeah. But as far as selling, no,
we
sir.
had, what was it, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
We
We
had
did
to
that.
ship all the people up to Winstead to get the salt.
Yeah, we had on a Saturday, what do we have, like 7 trucks, because we weren't getting salt.
Ah,
The
And we
state,
had-
the bad winter, the
Yeah.
state took all the salt. The state just basically overrode everybody and took all the salt from everybody, so. So Russ found salt, and I think it was
Yeah.
Winstead.
Winstead or
Remember?
Thomaston?
Yeah.
Russ calls and says, we're gonna take all our big dump trucks up to wherever Winstead it is, and all the trucks went up and picked up all the salt and
We did-
took it back.
We did 4 rounds.
But we
Like
did,
6 or 8 trucks,
very,
we did
very
4 rounds.
creative, but we needed salt. What are you gonna do?
So we commandeered a few, but no one ever got caught.
Nice.
I mean, paid for it. We paid for it. I'm slipping
glad I
tongues.
asked.
No, as far as selling, we don't sell anything.
Hold on.
But we work together, with, like I say, with a couple towns.
Yeah.
Because, you never know what you're gonna need.
Yeah.
So we have very good relationships with a couple towns, and knock on wood, they still,
Thanks for having those.
they're gonna be here as long as I am, I hope. So,
Sarah?
Just a quick question, just going back to the seasonal help, and I think it said in the book that you typically would want like 4 summer positions, and is that full-time, part-time, like, and what's the cost usually associated with that, like thinking?
It's usually minimum wage, and it's for seasonal employees that work the full hours of the day, so
It's
6
full-time, but they're just seasonal.
Right, right.
typically like middle of May through August. And we try to get college kids 18 and older, just because of the equipment, the weed whackers and stuff, and the power they possess
History on what
for
the-
training.
what the cost of that.
It's usually around 20, it's been around 24,000.
Is that, there's like a 20, there's like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
$24,000,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, a couple of years it was tough getting kids to work. For years, we had people who were repeat kids that would come back 3-4 years in a row, and then finally we had to say, okay, that's enough, you've learned the system too well. And we wouldn't let them come back, but it's just tough. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna knock any school system, but nobody's pushing, but there hasn't been a push in recent years to become a, a public works employee, an HVAC guy, or an electrician, or a plumber. There's no glamour in that, right? And I'm not saying there's it's just a perception. But I'm glad to see now there's a lot of kids who are going and pursuing, the community college aspect, and they're going to a trade school, or they're working and gonna become a tradesperson, because we get a lot of people come in or call and say, hey, I need a plumber, hey, I need an electrician. And a lot of them today, they don't want to do the bad job or the dirty job. They want hey, I'll replace your sink for $500 and I'll walk away. It's a nice, clean job. But the other part is just a lot of people don't return calls. So that's where it was difficult to get good kids, and we get, oh, I'll take it, and they show up and
I don't like picking up litter.
they don't like picking up litter. They don't like getting up for being at work at 6 a.m. So it is what it is. But it is having at least 2 of them it takes that burden off. Even if they're going to pick up parts, or they're doing the garbage and they're doing the trimming. Knock on wood, we haven't had a lot of complaints, but a couple of years ago, what was that, 2 or 3, 4 years ago, when we didn't have it?
Yeah.
And things were growing. It was one of those springs, it's like now, and all of a sudden the rain came, and grass is growing like crazy, weeds are growing like crazy, and the people were complaining. We couldn't get to everything. And we'd go and mow, and we're mowing 5 days a week. And come Monday, you're back to a field that has 3 or 4 inches of grass on it. So, knock on wood, we have a nice, steady, easy spring this year.
No more rain.
You gotta get some work release program going.
Yeah.
You have a contact, don't you?
He was just here a while ago, he just left. Keith?
No, we're certainly lucky to have you and the good relationship you have with Kathy's office, and I think with your example, your staff works both hard and smart, and finds creative solutions things. So we're very fortunate for that. I don't know that it needs to be said. I'm very supportive of keeping that mower in the Capitol Park, for whatever that's worth now, and just say thank you for all. I mean, we don't want to make, it's that there's that fine line between taking advantage of something someone like you has to offer, and that we're finding those solutions and we're organizationally really well, and then taking advantage to the point where we are setting ourselves up to really slide downhill when one domino comes out of place. And so that's where we have to balance with this stuff. So as much as we can, I know you know that, but
Yeah, no, thank you, I appreciate it. It's difficult.
And we're trying to phase some stuff back in, I think that's important, hopefully, like even with the cars with the police department, we can't do it all, but, I mean, we want to.
that's why we can sneak a mower in.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah,
'Cause it takes the
exactly.
burden off of next year as opposed to having to
Exactly.
slide that back in again.
Exactly.
I remember a couple of years ago at the Christmas recognition, I don't know if it was the same mechanic, but one of your guys was there, like Christmas time, but in t-shirt. You could see the grease under his fingernails, and got recognition for all the work he does. And it's like, we're just really lucky to have people like that. And I think that they want to be here because they see, you in there doing those things. And so for your whole staff. And I mean, just drive in the middle of a snowstorm. Like I go to Middletown when it was the last big snowstorm we had. And it's like you drive through Farmington, you make it fine. As soon as you go through Cook Street, you hit Plainville, you're sliding everywhere because no one's plowed. And so it's like we are very fortunate to have good public works here.
Yeah. No, we have some good people, that's for sure. And listen, we allow them to think, right? I don't want anyone to be a robot. If you're going to be a robot, you'll find a way out. I can't do it. You need someone, you got to be quick on your toes and figure things out. And we're fortunate to have those kind of people.
Yeah.
All right. We can also discuss the capital when we get to it, too.
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping ahead,
Yeah.
but
No
I heard the mower, I'm pro mower.
Nice.
Put that on a bumper sticker.
You want to operate the mower?
Russ would rather have me not operate the mower. But
We'll try.
Keith, your haircut says it all.
I do, I do the greens.
Amy, any questions?
No questions, but I do appreciate your sacrifices, and I do understand that you don't have a wish list, you have a need list, and I appreciate that. And I thank you for your efficiency and everything you do to make it work.
Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. One, I think, Russ, you do a great job, and obviously, all the things you touch, I think Kathy talked about it very clearly. Everything's under one umbrella, so you have a lot of flexibility on how you can position forces, which is an outlier. I mean, I think Kathy talked about it. It's very different than a lot in municipalities, towns, and cities throughout. I pull a lot of permits and do a lot of work in a lot of different jurisdictions, and this is certainly a unique place, which is fine. I think it's great, because I think what you just said just before I spoke was that you want people to think, you want people to be able to operate and solve problems. And I think attracting people to it is, I think, also a positive, because there's a number of people that don't get pigeonholed anymore into just one discipline. They're able to do a few things. It probably works back and forth. Some people are more want to do one thing, but I think it attracts a certain type of worker, and I think we're better for that, right? But working off of Keith's comments, you're at that point where it is so over, everybody's all hands on deck, and they're moving in a lot of different ways, and we haven't dropped the ball. I think Kathy really speaks to that high level of service and so forth. But I just want to make sure that, like Keith, it doesn't all of a sudden come to just a tremendous drop-off. We lose a couple people, or a couple, 2 or 3 key people, and then you're in a real, you're in a different environment.
Right.
And so with that said, and I understand the business building official and the assistant building official, I think that was a great move. Not having the capital and the capital highway project leader one, what were you envisioning for that? I mean, for that position, what were they going to actually do?
We still have one position. It was going to be more of a team of the two
Yeah,
people.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Like,
so
what was the kind? Yeah.
we still have a capital projects person.
Right,
and that
you have one, but
person.
but you were
and
gonna put two.
And it would be more of a team of able to do more work, like the Staples House, the painting. Like, they would be going around and doing things as a team. The group that built our pavilion outside, they were part of our capital projects team. So but we weren't able to fill the second position, so we have one capital projects team. And again, if it's a job that we need 2 people, again, we have the flexibility that Russ will pull a highway guy or someone to help the person, or the electrician from the treatment plant, or something like that to help us. The whole idea is to do some of this work internally instead of contracting it out.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. I totally agree with the concept. I think the concept works. I think, but like you said, if you had 2 people, you have a team, you can
Yeah.
kind of accomplish something. Now you have to pull somebody off of a resource.
Right.
If they're doing something, to partner with that position you have to be able to do, because most jobs are two
Yeah, for the most
persons
part, you're right.
operations to be most efficient.
And what we do is, we look at and evaluate, so we plan ahead quite a bit, and we'll evaluate who can come, because, listen, I can't bring Kathy to help me to do the roof. I can have her come do drainage design for me, because she's a drainage expert. I did
Certified.
that. But there are certain people who can do certain tasks,
Yeah.
right? And so we'll move our program around, we'll work it and ship, our repair program based on the needs of who we have available to help out. One thing I'll tell you about, last year I worked with Joe. I got excited, as a relatively mild term, about we had to replace fence on the trail. Had to buy 600 feet for, was it $5,000 or something? It was astronomical, and it bothered me. And I talked to Joe, so we spend about 40,000 a year on tree removals. And we pay our sub to come in and take trees down. And it's bothered me that this fencing, and we have, as I said, over 12 miles of trail. We probably have about 4 miles of fence. Talked with Joe, we had money saved from different capital projects, and I talked to him, and it took a while, it took a couple weeks, but he bought in. We bought a log mill, a
Yeah,
sawmill.
perfect.
So the capital projects guy with our heavy equipment operators have all learned and been taught and trained on the sawmill. So now we're making our own fence. So the trees that we cut down, we're no longer chipping them or having them take them away. So we're saving money there so we can cut more trees down. We'll take the log lengths and we're making fence posts out of them and fence railing. And we have these four guys learned on this sawmill. We got it honed, you know, it's honed in, and these things, they're coming up. We can make wood flooring if we need to.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So, and I told a couple of colleagues, and they're like, "You did what?" Like, but we spend a lot of money on tree removal, but it bothered me that like for $5,000 to go 600 feet, it used to be like, I don't know, $1,200. It was cheap. Now it's so expensive, and inflation with it, I'm like, we got to save money. So I've got wood stockpiled and coming out, and they're cutting like, when we have a, rainy day, whatever, they're in there cutting, and we get a lot of wood done. So that we all, these four guys are all kind of like that capital projects group. When they're not running equipment, they'll be helping each other out along with the electrician at the plant. We are, one of our building officials, the assistant is an electrician, he's a E1. So he's helped me out with a couple things, problems that we had to look at, and with the high school and stuff. So everybody's kind of learning that we all do a lot of things and we all bring a different skill set.
Right. And I think that's where I'm driving at. I think that we are so fortunate to have that. And I think the idea of embracing self-performance, I think what you're talking about, whether it be, setting catch basins and doing the kind of infrastructure work, they have to anticipate the paving schedule on and be on target, whether it's building fencing. I didn't know you were milling fencing now.
Yeah.
But I think what I would just say to the council at large and everybody's to make sure as our median price of houses get more expensive, I think we really need to communicate what you do. You know what I mean? I think this high level of service at times can be taken for granted. And I think we know it is taken for granted. And I think, and so it's not even it is. And I think, I just want to find ways where we communicate this as strongly as possible, because I think people just think things get done. And that just doesn't happen. It's because you're resourceful, your department's resourceful, the staff we have throughout the town hall and the town. I mean, and it's really, and we're always balancing it against the dollars that are available. And we have kudos to everybody that comes in, but it is a message we definitely need to stay on top of, because I don't know if everybody knows what you did with the sawmill and what you did.
I don't need
but
everyone
I think,
to know.
But I understand, I get that too, but I think it's these things that I think go a long way in keeping the bottom line
And
near
on
the
that,
bottom.
Dave, is we all got to realize, and everyone here, I know you do, like, do I come, like you said, Amy, it's a needs list.
Yeah.
Right.
At some point, as Kathy said, it's going to break. And as you've said, and we've all, like, you get it, it's going to break. And when is that breaking point? And, our trucks, our snowplow trucks, we have a 1985 dump truck that we use for backfilling curbs.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a, what is that plate? The,
Seatbelt?
No.
no, it's a seatbelt. And it's actually it's standard.
Antique.
Antique plate. It doesn't even have any antique plate, right? But that's what we do, and we utilize that. But the thing is, it's at what point do you make our budget, give it because it can't be sustainable for 1 year.
Right.
You're not going to give the town side a 8% budget every year. It's not sustainable. So that's where things, how do you change that? And I don't have that answer.
Right, and I think, we have, I think, I'm hoping in some ways we're in a moment of time, like with personnel and things like that, but Russ and I and Jim Russ Basin, we've been talking a lot again, just about being able to fill positions, what the budget is and where it's gonna break, and you hope, part of some of the problem we have now is that we're not able to fill positions too. And so, again, it's sort of a perfect storm in some ways, but we hope that it's kind of a moment of time, and then we'll be able to have employees. But we've been looking at kind of the overall workforce in the Highway and Grounds Department and how we do business, because the other thing too is that we do have a situation where, I mean, quality of life is very important for the people that, as everyone is, but it's a changing environment, and people like their time off, they don't like their overtime, it's a much different environment, and we run our organization that of having low amount of employees, but we have overtime and some different things, and now Russ and I shake our head. We're like, we have all this overtime and no one wants it. And it's a whole different kind of environment. And also based on some of the different things with COVID and the requirements of sick time, you have people that are out more and things of that nature. So we've been talking about it quite a bit, about just the organization and how we function, because it's different. It's different.
So, and that was my last thing. I figured a lot of people don't sign up for overtime like they once did. That was gonna be my last point. But in this operation, you really gotta rely on that model.
Right.
And so, yeah, your conversations are probably spot on at this point.
Yeah, and as Joe said before, with not having, the summer help or the part-time help for leaf pickup and snow plowing, I'm pulling guys from the plant, for leaf pickup. Instead of paying, $10 an hour, I'm paying them $30 an hour. So that adds to the cost.
Right.
Again, the guys for $10 an hour never showed up. Right. So it was that anyway, but there was a time where we'd get 50 applications for 4 positions for leaf pickup.
Right.
Now we call it temp help, and they don't, we'll send you 2 guys, and they never show.
Yeah, they don't show. Yeah, no, I figured, no, it's definitely, it's the challenge. It's a big challenge. But thank you for your answers. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
That was 43 to 54, I think.
Go to the planning and zoning.
Yeah, we're gonna do a bunch more.
So I make a motion for a tentative approval of pages 43 through 54.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Page 26, please. That is the fire marshal's account, and the fire marshal that has a 1.58% increase. It's basically flat.
Any questions about the fire marshal? Brian?
Nope.
Patty? Sarah?
No.
Dee?
No.
Amy?
No.
Dave?
No.
TA that.
What is that, 36?
Page 26.
26. Make a motion for a temporary approval of page 26.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Sorry, my
Motion
numbers
passes.
are going backwards.
Yeah,
So
we're all over the place.
18, page 18 through 20.
Planning Department. All
Planning
right.
Department. And, Planning Department. So what's their increase? So one of the things, just a big shout out to our planning department. Over the last couple of years, it's been really, really busy. And Shannon, who was our assistant town planner and wound up being the town planner, is really doing a great job for us and her whole planning staff. And talking about just quickly about how our philosophy about using different people in different ways. And it's a Bruce Sear story, is that Bruce Sear has been here as long as probably me and Russ, and maybe even, I think he's probably the longer. And he started out as the assistant town engineer. And he went from being the assistant town engineer, then he went to
Project engineer.
project engineer. Then he moved over to being the zoning enforcement. He trained and became our zoning enforcement officer. Then he wound up being a development inspector, I think, for a little bit. Didn't he help do some?
No, he did he went to like planner, like helping out. He did everything, engineered plan review.
Plan review and things like that. And now he's been trained, and now he's our assistant town planner and works in the planning department. And it's just having a good employee who has a wealth of knowledge, and when we needed different things, when we couldn't fill planning positions and this and that, he moved over and helped in the planning department, and just, again, going to your point, Dave, we just move people around if they have the skill set and they can do different things.
Yeah, he's flourished.
Yeah.
He really does a superb job on plan reviews, from, zoning issues to drainage design and stormwater and water quality volume. It's just, he's a big, that whole department's a big asset. And the way Kathy when she switched everything around and set it up, the development wing is a one-stop shop for developers. Instead of having to, gotta go to that building and this building and figure out who's where and when, they're all right in our office. So you have engineering, fire marshal, building and planning and zoning, so all your answers get asked and answered right then. Works out well.
Basically, the planning department is flat. We've done some computer software support has been increased, but other than that, it's a flat account.
Dave, any questions?
No, I would agree. I think the one-stop shop is, I've kind of interfaced with it here and there, and it's, it's pretty efficient.
Amy?
Yeah, I commend you for your efficiencies again. It makes all the difference in the world. At least when you ask for something, we know it's because you need it.
Exactly.
Keith?
Yeah, I would echo everybody's comments. I mean, coming from planning and zoning before town council, not that I'm encouraging people to email them because they're very busy, but if you email the planning department at almost any time of day, you most likely will get a response back that same day, and it will be the answer to your question. Like, not, I will check in and I will do this, it will be a direct answer to your question. They're very good, so nothing else.
Sarah?
I don't have any questions.
Patty?
No questions.
Brian?
Yeah, all set. You guys are good. Thanks for helping me.
All right, let's TA that section.
More in the budget now?
Make a motion, Brian, don't answer that, Brian. Temporary approval for page 18.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All in
It'd be
favor?
18 to 20.
Sorry,
18
temporary
I
approval
was
for
going to
18
say
to 20.
18 to 20.
Yeah.
Second.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Yeah. And the last one, 42, or the second to last one, 42, this is the building inspector. We kind of talked about that a little bit, where you can see on the narrative page that we went from 1.5 to 2.5.
Yes, we did cover that for a little bit. Any questions, Brian?
I know.
Patty?
No.
Sarah?
No.
Keith?
No, sir.
Amy?
No.
Dave?
Make a motion for a temporary approval for page 42.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Joe,
Motion
do you want to do
passes.
the garbage now? Yeah.
I just want us to come back at 10 o'clock.
You may not like what you see, but I'll be here.
We have cookies.
Wasn't sure if Russ did the garbage usually. Page, the brown tab, 69 to 71.
He said he picks the garbage up in the in the trail.
The budget from 69 to 71. And Joe, maybe you can walk them through the budget?
Sure. First page is the summary page. Basically, this is a special revenue fund, and what that means is, you'll hear more about this in a couple of weeks from the auditors. The revenues have to match the expenditures in this type of an operation. It's basically self-sustaining operations. The fees we charge have to cover the cost of what we do. So it's broken down into 3 units: landfill, collection, and disposal, that's your normal trash, and then hazardous waste. Russ could probably speak to landfill more than I could. But on page 69, is the breakdown for the expenditures on landfill. If you have any questions, on page 70 would be collection and disposal. And then on 71 would be hazardous waste, which Russ also, that's Russ's baby also. I'll give him kudos, even though he criticized me before for not being quick on decision making.
I said it took you a while to spend the money. You came around.
What you neglected to say is that we ordered this.
Oh,
We
2
ordered
years
this in
ago.
April.
Kumbaya.
This is how we ordered this. I don't know where he finds these vendors, but we ordered this in 21. right, in like April of 21.
Yep.
It was delivered in September of 22?
23.
23. So,
It's like a fire truck, huh? Special made?
Oh, it was awful.
They're not as efficient.
and on the hazardous waste in all seriousness, we used to be part of the MDC. You probably heard the story before. We were part of the MDC, hazardous waste collection. And Russ working with some other towns in the Farmington Valley, they have their own collection program now. And we're literally saving about $30,000 a year by doing this.
Wow.
It's a big savings to the town. And it's very, very popular. I think we're the #1 user.
Of all three collections.
Yeah, it's quite an event. It's quite an event. I had one question on landfill, if I mean. but I-
You guys ready for questions?
Sure.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was just, our leaf composting at Quarry Road, is that what's down at Tungus Mead as compost and so forth? Or we
Both
have a
places.
vendor coming and picking up, buying some of it? I know some towns compost and then, they sell it, you know what I mean?
So we compost at both locations, and when we need it from Quarry Road, we supplement the meat,
Got
Tungus
it.
meat.
Okay,
So we compost all our leaf,
Right.
not all of it, we bring some to Dunning because it's more efficient for our operation. But we keep the amount of leaves that we go through on an average of, I'm not even gonna try and make up a number to you if it's, 5,000 yards of compost that we put in the bin every year. It depends on the year.
Yep.
But we compost all of our thing, put it down there. The landfill, you'll see the number in here for the contractual services. We just, wasn't it last night or Tuesday night? We approved the bid for 53,000. So we'll come and the parts of the trees that we can't use, the big butts they're too twisted, and we stockpile them and put them down, and they come and they'll grind them all up. They'll grind our brush up. We used to have a tub grinder, but it became so expensive to maintain, it wasn't worth it, and this is a lot cheaper. And we didn't, as I said the other night, we didn't do it last year. We got enough and going through this year. And part of this also in the landfill is we have to monitor the landfill every year. And we do that. We've been fortunate. We were doing it 4 times a year. Can't remember. My years are growing on me. When did we do the water main? About 10 years ago? So Tungus Mead used to be fed on a well. And about 10 years ago, we did a project to extend the water main from Red Oak Hill and got rid of the well. And that in turn got rid of, as part of our testing program, we were able to reduce our testing to twice a year. And then finally, about 2 or 3 years ago, we got it down to every 9 months. So when everything's status quo, nothing's crazy, nothing's moving, we're in a good spot. So we're doing it every 9 months, which in turn saves us money. So that comes out of this account as well.
got it.
Amy,
I have no questions.
Keith,
On the page 71 with the hazardous waste collection, so I see that part included in that is the electronics recycling and then personal document shredded events.
Correct.
Those are extremely popular, right?
Right.
So, and what do we do, 2 times a year?
3.
3?
We do 1 here and 2 in Simsbury.
1 here, okay, and so those are all in production. And so the 40,000, is that a vendor that runs those?
Yes. So what that pays for, our fees, we don't charge our residents. This
Yeah.
comes out of here. And that covers the average cost of all our town residents to go and do that, and we pays for the shredding as well.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we have 5 towns within it, our little consortium, and we all share it's based on a number of visitors who drop off.
Yeah.
And as Joe said, we are, for the most part, Farmington is the biggest drop-off, except for maybe one event a year at Simsbury.
This is not a complaint.
No.
I had a car full of old laptops, and I pulled up and I saw town hall. I was like, I'll see you next year, man. I just pulled it. It was so
It's crazy.
busy there. I mean, it was efficient too. You could see the cars working around. I just didn't have the time that day, but it's really it's a huge value to the community because people want to have a safe way to get rid of their stuff.
Right, and it handles it, and so we work with the football team.
Yeah, they were all
They'll
there.
come, and it's the electronics place, they'll come, and the football team comes and they ask for donations. They carry the things out of your cars.
No, it was great.
It's really good. It works out well. It's turned into a community
Yeah,
event.
it's a community event. It's a community event.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cooper was there working it. He should got a little side money. Sarah,
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Patty,
Yeah, I just have a question. It's the narrative associated with page 70. It says the town doesn't pay a fee for the disposal of clean recyclables. I know that a lot of times recyclables aren't clean. Are we getting, I guess my question is someone looking to see if our recyclables are clean? Or is it just, what's the meaning?
The contractor where we dispose of or takes our recyclables from us, they actually monitor and they determine what percentage is clean or not clean. If we go over a certain percentage, then we have to pay for that load. They do it load by load. And you never think about it, but most loads usually have about 0.5% of unclean recyclables in them. In Farmington, we noticed a pattern this past year that whenever there's a holiday like 4th of July, Memorial Day, and Labor Day, where you have a big picnic, we spike up over 10%. So we tend to get low. So we do have to pay in those months for dirty recyclables.
Right.
That
Thank you.
should be in this
Nothing else.
year's newsletter.
We'll make it.
You know what that is? People just hanging the garbage bag and saying, pick a thing, and nobody's paying attention.
Brian?
Yeah, no additional questions, but I'm gonna clean my bottles after the holidays.
Those Russ always just, you get a lot of kudos here from me.
The world has gone
One of the
crazy.
things you always you see a lot, and I see this at home too. A lot of people think, well, your paper plate that you just ate had food on it is recyclable, but that's actually a dirty recyclable because it had food on it. It's contaminated. It's got grease on it. It's no use to the recycling company, so you might as well just put that in your trash. So pizza boxes are the same way.
I thought they just reversed pizza boxes.
Only clean pizza boxes, Keith. They did reverse it, so they'll take them, but they still have to be clean.
No such thing.
It was a clean pizza box. Gosh.
All right, well, Tina.
That's what I think they should have just said, take them out, because nobody has a clean pizza box.
Yeah.
And if it gets too confusing, it's going to end up in the recycling and not be clean.
Make a motion for a tentative approval for pages 69 to 71.
Just, one last thing before you do, just to let you know, the fee is going to stay the same. It's $268 a year. It will stay the same. It's not going to change.
Done, Russ.
Second?
Motion and second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
Motion
Nice
passed.
job. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
Pleasure. I know, exactly.
Russ, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
If we give you any more compliments, you won't be able to get out of the door.
Oh, trust me.
We have to call one of those guys in here to make
Have
it
to get a
wider.
project manager and
Exactly.
Thank you.
But now we know that the town manager has her, her drain permit, so.
certified drainage. Listen, I would put her up against some consultants, I'll be honest with you.
All right. Nancy, Jeff. All right, so let's see if we can do the pages correctly this time.
I texted Lori,
I
but
just did the whole
unfortunately she
section.
had made it home, if we were supposed to be later.
That's 55 through 65. All right, so the next section is pages 55 through 65. Everyone, I think, knows Nancy Parent, and Jeff Porter's on our recreation.
Yep, and Lori Mujichara she had made it home, so I told her not to come back,
Okay.
but she would have.
All right, so community and recreation, their budget has gone down 0.63%. It's very, very flat. I think the one thing that we wanted to talk about is that this budget includes a half-a-year funding for a recreation director in accordance with the town strategic plan. We've also shifted funds from the community recreation operating budget to the recreation fund to offset some of that cost. And the recreation fund is a enterprise fund that's paid by fees. So maybe we can go to that page and we can talk a little bit about it. Rec fund, yeah,
Oh, the red or
the rec, yeah, I think just the rec fund,
page 62?
page
Which page?
62.
62, thank you.
You're welcome.
So you can see here where we had recreation director, current, you had 0, now we have 1. Recreation Supervisor 2, the current .5, and it's proposed to be 0, and that 0, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's going to the rec fund.
Yes. If you go to page 78, or sort of page opposite 78, you see that corresponding change. You see recreation supervisor .5 from the proposed as the line.
Page 78 on that side.
Unnumbered page, you'll,
So what we're doing is that we're adding a recreation director, a new position, but for half a year. So we'd start paying after half a year. And we're moving the recreation supervisor into the rec fund. And so the rec fund, we think, can support now, instead of 1.5 positions, we think it can support 2 positions.
Okay. Brian, any questions?
I do not. Thank you for everything you do for the town, and the fact that you generate so much income to cover all these things is pretty amazing. So thanks for making programs that everyone uses and pays for.
And one of the things we talked about, I think, when we had talked about the strategic plan with Jeff and Nancy, that, the idea now is that recreation is going to be broken out from community. And so Nancy and her staff can spend more time on the social services and community. And Nancy, you weren't at the meeting, but we talked about is that her area is just really growing quite a bit, and so is the recreation area is growing quite a bit. So really, we think it's time, and even though we think it has worked out well, it's time that they each kind of are a standalone division. And so next year's budget, if everything goes well, we'd have, its own recreation, and it would be separate from Nancy. And Nancy can focus on some of the other things, because social services and community and things of that nature.
Fair rents and
Oh, yeah.
the
Housing must have
ADA,
got crazy.
housing, the DEI, all those things have really taken off, and I'm passionate about those things, so I'm excited to kind of put some good energy into those things and really work on them well.
Bye-bye pickleball, hello.
No, well, I'll still, pickleball is the seniors, so we'll still be working with the seniors in a lot of their services, so.
And as we discussed on the recreation side with Jeff, which are growing programs, is that, our new 1928 Town Hall has the new recreation space, our pickleball courts and different things. And we think that it's, time to have 2 separate entities. And I think this way, we're hopeful that, with the one full-time recreation director in the operating budget, being able to push the other into the rec fund, we could support it, and it's not too costly for the town.
All right. Dave, any questions?
No, I think the only question I have is, I guess, if the 1928 building continues to go on schedule and so forth, I mean, that's going to give us a recreational opportunity up there too, right? And that'll be something that will be integrated with this new director and so forth.
Right, absolutely.
Amy?
No, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for everything you do.
Keith?
No questions, thank you both.
Sarah?
No questions, thanks.
Patty?
Yeah, a question. If we're moving the supervisor into the rec fund, is that going to change have any impact on the fees for users who are participating in the recreational activities?
I don't think it would have adding the person is not going to impact the fees, but they always look at the fees. So fees could potentially be going up, but it would not be because we're putting the rec director in there or the rec supervisor in there.
Okay. And the narrative said it's for next year. Is this intended to be a permanent change into the rec fund? For this person to be funded there?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Brian?
You started with me.
I did.
Yeah, you went Brian, Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Blood,
Sorry.
blood sugar,
But
man,
thank you
this
for
guy.
covering.
The sugar's dropped.
Got that Celsius upstairs? or what?
I get that.
It's like watching tennis. Here I am.
Pickleball.
Pickleball, yeah.
Well, thank you both.
You're very welcome.
Jeff, thank you for all the work you do. I know you run the summer program, you hire a lot of kids, you run all the programs for them, so I know your task is gonna get greater as the school comes to an end. And Nancy, again, wearing both hats, doing everything you do, so it's much appreciated.
We still got a couple accounts for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So TA?
TA, what, 55 to 65?
Yes.
Make a motion for a tentative approval for pages 55 to 65.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Now, if you go to the red tab in the back, that's the rec fund, 72 through 80.
Yep.
And if you can see on the front cover page, you can see at the beginning is the revenues for the different objects of sports, cultural, bus trips, rec camps, senior programs, and other interests. And we have a budget of, for revenues of $1,355,248. And then you have your appropriations on the bottom for each one of these accounts for a balanced budget. And then you have the backup. And again, this is our rec fund where it's service fees, and that's what, it's not from taxpayer dollars.
Got it. All right, so I get the order straight this time. Keith,
No questions.
Amy,
No questions?
Dave,
No questions.
Brian,
I am good, thank you.
Patty.
Yeah, on the summary page, there's the department request was 921 and the increase by the town manager was about 400,000. I was just curious.
This, the one that was 6, Patty?
I didn't hear you, Kathy, sorry.
I'm sorry. Which one are you asking about? I'm sorry, I missed
I'm
it.
looking at the summary page
Yep.
overall, and I guess it's actually the sports physical is probably where it's coming from,
Right.
sports and physical activities. I'm just saying that it's about the difference between the department request and the town manager proposal is about $400,000. I'm just curious as to what that difference is.
Joe?
Basically what that is the department uses a different methodology for budgeting than what I use for budgeting, or what I convinced Kathy to use for budgeting. They use a longer perspective, and they look at averages, longer-term averages. And since COVID and since the pandemic, a lot of that's changed. And really in the past 3 to 4 years, all recreation has grown tremendously. And just looking at the numbers, look at the actual for 22-23, we're at 1.3 million in revenue taken in, 1.2 million in expenditures. This year, the projection is 1.3 taken in revenue, 1.6, I'm sorry, 1.2 in expenditures. They've already reached over $1 million in revenue for this current fiscal year. So it was more aggressive in coming up with the manager's budget, reflecting more what's been happening in the past 4 years as opposed to a longer-term view. It's, in my mind, it's a more realistic view as to what's going to be taking place.
What the actual revenue.
Right, what's actually taking place.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
And Brian.
I am good, thank you.
All right.
So that's 72 through 80.
Make a motion for a tentative approval for pages 72 through 80.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And the next one is the Westwoods, which is the blue tab, which is 81 through 84. And again, on the cover page here, you see the revenues at the beginning with green fees, season tickets, golf cart rentals, driving range, and for a total revenue of $761,900. And then the appropriations on the bottom is the clubhouse restaurant practice for $761,900. And if you remember too, on the capital, we are going to be doing some work at the clubhouse. Nancy and I think the restaurant person is coming back after a slow start of some problems, and I think people are pleased with the restaurant. And I think we've been trying each year to maybe do something new, and we're excited about the splash park, and that hopefully with the restaurant they could maybe do ice cream or do different things and have a nice, better patio out in the back and some different things to upgrade that. But golf course is doing well.
It's doing very well.
Yeah, doing well.
Yeah, doing very well.
It has a very nice niche of people that like to go.
Is there any questions? Patty, any questions?
No.
Brian?
I'm good. I can't wait to go out and play golf again.
I know with all the sunshine, everybody is chomping at the bit.
Keith?
No questions.
Amy?
No questions.
Dave?
I'm fine.
All right, we TA.
Make a motion for a tentative approval for pages 81 through 84, excuse me.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
So, Joe, if I think it'd probably be a good time now, it's
Yeah,
a
I'm
break for
squirming.
dinner, and then just to tell you where we're at. Did I miss,
Staples
oh, I'm
House.
sorry, one more,
Yeah.
sorry. What's the
geez.
number?
I think there is no change in it whatsoever, so, where are the buildings?
22.
Page 22.
Thanks, Joe.
That's Nancy's next door, the Staples House. And there's really no change in that budget.
Any questions, Keith?
No, sir.
Amy?
Good.
Dave?
I'm good.
Sarah?
All set.
Patty?
I'm good.
And Brian?
Good to go.
Thank you.
Make a motion for a tentative approval for page 22.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated.
So,
Have a good
I
night.
think if we take a break, and then we come back and we just have the general government group of accounts, which is a small group of accounts, and then from there, we can talk about debt service and non-tax revenues, and maybe talk about the capital, and then we'd be ready to go. Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Beautiful.
thanks.
Will it be how long for Patty, so we know when to bring her
Oh.
back?
What do you say, 15 minutes or
15 minutes,
so?
Patty? Okay, 15
thank
minutes.
Sounds
you.
good. Yep.
All right, we're back. Patty, are you still with us?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, we're going to start off at what, page 6, correct?
Nope, we're gonna do general administration 1 through 25.
Wow, excellent. Oh, you're right, Catherine, you're right. I did ask for Brian's.
And, yeah, so these are the general administration group of accounts. And the overall increase is 4.05. This is where the salary account reserve is in. Just a couple of things that we talked about. Obviously, the registrar of voters is in this account. There was some increases in that. We have, knock wood, been doing pretty well with our legal account, so that has been reduced. This is where, in this group of accounts, even though you have approved it already, this is where the library is. It's just all our administrative accounts in here. Brian is here just in case there was any questions on the technology part of the budget. One of the things, Brian, I've noticed a couple of times now, it's in the capital, but it will be good, I think, to do this council chamber, some of the technology.
Yeah. Especially that.
Yeah.
Or less.
What?
Less.
So, I don't know if you have any questions on pages 1 through 25.
Just give me a second to sort of start looking through, make sure my notes. If anybody does have any questions, jump on in.
I do have a question on page 6 if you want.
Sure, Brian, I'm
Curious
ready.
about the office supplies request. It seemed like we needed a lot and it went down to 10,000. Is there something that we're not getting or something that we're?
I'm sorry, what page are you on, Brian?
Page 6.
Oh, page 6.
There's some confusion between office supplies and contractual services.
Oh,
What I'm
okay.
trying to do is, a lot of departments in the town, a lot of the personnel departments have certain accounts that they'd like to charge everything to. And so we're trying to retrain them as to what accounts things should go to. And so what happens here is they were paying for a lot of stuff out of office supplies that technically is what we would consider a contractual service, printing and things like that. So I moved their, in order to, it's like positive, it's like, it's reinforce that they shouldn't do that. We just move the money around to where it's It should be, so that they charge it to the right account.
Put it where it belongs. Yeah, I'm just making sure that we weren't not getting something that might have been needed, that's all.
No, because if you look at office supplies.
We're gonna get it, but
estimate
just in a
this year-
different account.
Yeah.
Okay.
The estimate's 8,300, but if you look at contractual services, the estimate's almost $34,000. So basically, we just flop the money around.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like the chief moving the people around in his department.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm not playing chess with you guys. I see what you do for strategy.
Yeah.
Patty, any questions?
No.
Sarah?
No.
Keith?
No, thank you.
Amy?
Find any.
Dave?
I'm all set.
And just on page 11, the 235, that's for the, obviously, salary reserve account for, is that
Yeah, that's
upcoming
for,
contractual?
for non-union, I mean, not, I'm sorry, non-settled contracts. That's where the lump
So we're
sum of
banking
money
it
goes
ready
in,
to go.
yeah.
Perfect. All right, since there's no more questions,
Make a motion for a temporary approval of pages 1 through 25.
Second.
motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Brian.
Wow. That was easy. Pizza?
Game for the pizza.
Good to eat, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, Brian.
All right, so we've run through all the accounts. Then, benefits, I'm sorry. Why don't you get that one, Joe? Thank you.
Blue tap, benefits and other.
Page 66.
This is one of our
67.
increases. The overall is increasing just over 4%. The big drivers here are the pension contribution and the health insurance contribution. Both of those have, is where most of the increase is. The pension contribution actually funds two different pensions. It's the defined benefit plan, which was frozen back in 2012, and then we have the defined contribution plan for anybody hired after 2012. So there's contributions made to both of those pension plans. And then the health insurance, that's a combination of our contribution to the self-insurance fund. We heard a lot about that last night. And also paying our consultant and paying the employees who take health insurance waivers.
Joe, for the heart and hypertension, that's going to zero out eventually as everybody retires out? That's under that? Or does he have to hold on to it for after they retire out?
The bulk of that payment is to one person.
Okay.
So eventually the bulk of that will go away. I don't think it'll ever, well, let's put it this way, it will go away, but it's probably not in our lifetime.
Okay.
Okay, there's enough claims out there, or potential claims out there from former employees that, I mean, you can't do it any longer. It's now it's workers' comp.
Yeah.
But prior to the change in the law, there are enough employees out there that, you know, you basically have to go through their lifetime.
Got it. Any questions for Joe? Brian?
I do not.
Patty? No, you're still muted, but I got you.
No, I know that wasn't unmuting, but no, I don't. Thank you.
Sarah?
No, I'm all set.
Keith?
I don't know why I'm escaping, the terminology escaping. Joe, we're still paying down that eighth of a percent. The work that we were doing in the retirement board to pay down, you're paying down an eighth of a percent a year.
You ready to return?
Yeah.
So, it's a little complicated. As you may recall, back when, probably the second to the last meeting that we had, when you were still chair, we asked the actuary to do a study of the assumptions.
Yeah.
And so she finally did a study of the assumptions, and that'll be presented this coming Tuesday at the pension board meeting. But basically, one of her assumptions is that the rate of return, where it is now, which is at 6.625%,
Yeah.
is where it should be.
Okay.
So having the draft report and having the knowledge that, you know, she's recommended it not be changed, I left it in the contribution level here. I did not change it.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'd have to add more money than what we're already adding to this.
That was where, yeah, okay, that's what I wanted to, I know, it was just something I remember being highlighted by Joan and some of the other members of the board, a couple of years ago, but if they're saying that that's where it should be, then I trust them.
Yeah, I think, you know, and that's a philosophical decision of the board, that right now, everything numerically says we should be where we are, we should not change it.
Okay.
I think there's a philosophy on the board that they want to go further than 6.625.
Oh, yeah,
So that'll be something the board will have to figure out.
okay, thank you.
Amy?
No questions.
Dave?
No, I'm fine.
All right. HTA that.
So
Yeah, sorry, I keep forgetting.
Page 66 and 67.
Make a motion for a temporary approval of pages 68 and 67.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. One correction, I think I said 68 and 67,
Yeah.
66 and 67.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. Motion passes.
Is it debt now, Joe?
I think we're down to that.
Debt. Debt service, which would be page 68, please. And Joe will go through that for you.
Yeah, I think,
Hey, Joe, before you start, could you move the microphone closer to where you, thank you.
I actually want to hand something out that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about, but it does have something to do with what we're talking about.
That's an oxymoron.
These are the pertinent pages of the last debt issuance we did. And the reason why I'm handing them out is the debt policy says that I'm supposed to do all these metrics once a year, at least once a year. And I just want to show everybody that I do these metrics, sometimes more than once a year. So what I did is, this is the official statement. We prepare this for every single debt issue we do, okay? It basically is a story of the town, and it's basically the story of the town in numbers. So back in January, we sold $28 million in general obligation bond anticipation notes. The $28 million is for the high school project, entirely for the high school project. So what I did is, and if you want the full OS or official statement, I'm more than happy to send it to you electronically. But I pulled out the section that talks about debt. And this is basically the history of debt in the town of Farmington. The first page shows you what's out there, what was issued, what's outstanding, and when it finally matures. Then it goes on to tell you about some of the other debt that we have in addition to the bonded debt. Then you can see a debt maturity schedule and how quickly the debt's going to retire over the next 20 years. And then there's some metrics that, according to the debt policy, I'm supposed to do every year. So just to let you know that we do those metrics, and they are in our official statement. And this is basically the information that the rating agencies use, part of this. They use this entire document, which is actually 150 pages, to determine our rating each year. But I thought I would hand that out so you could see where we are with debt. And that's as of January. Obviously, things change every month. We do pay down debt every month, so it does change. But that's basically a snapshot of debt as of January 9th or actually, it's January 23rd of this year. So getting back to the budget, what we're budget for next year, obviously, is the debt payments for everything that's been issued. And we have the lease financing. We do have 2 leases left. One will actually pay off next October. We'll have another lease that'll go for continue for quite a while. And then we have the bond interest and the bond principal, and that's on the existing debt. In the bond interest payment for next year is included an amount for an issue that we're going to do in August. We're going to do an issue, those $28 million in bands, we're going to permanently finance them in August of this year. Probably, actually, we might do $28,600,000, but we're going to do at least $28 million, and that will all be the high school project. I may put a couple of other projects in there to bring it up a little bit. But I did put in, principal's paid twice a year, so I did put in one principal payment for the year. The way it was scheduled, I'm sorry, there's 2 interest payments each year. I misspoke. There's 2 interest payments each year. There will not be a principal payment next year. You will see it the following year, though. So the following year's budget will see a substantial increase also, because there will be another principal payment added to that in 25, 26. But there will be one interest payment next year, and it is included in this budget. And that's pretty much the debt story for right now. We have issued close to, almost $94 million on the high school project at this point. We anticipate that there will be one more bond issue, probably in the neighborhood of $10 to $12 million for that project. I'm hoping to push that out to the 25, 26 fiscal year, so it would actually give you an extra year before you'd have to start making payment on it. But the plan right now is to do one issue of between $28 and $29 million in August of this year, and then start paying it off in the following fiscal year. What is in here that's causing the increase is the payment for the principal payment on the 23 bond issue that we did. That was a $30 million issue, and that added $1.5 million in principal payments and $620,000 in interest payments to next year's budget. So if there's any questions on it, I'd be happy to answer them.
Brian, anything?
Just curious, what are we adding to that $28 million bond you were talking about?
We have the $28 million, the $28 million here total would be high school.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking of at this point is we have an aggressive road program, as you heard earlier, and we're financing that through debt issuance. So I'm going to have to see where we are with that program and how much we've spent so far. According to tax laws, federal tax laws, I could advance funds to pay for those expenses, but I have to reimburse where we borrowed the money from after 18 months. So last year, we did about $600,000 in we advanced about $600,000 to the bond paving program, so I have to reimburse the town for that. So I'm going to probably add that to the $28 million. But I also may add some additional things. You guys just authorized $600,000 land purchase, which that'll be paid for through a bond, so that'll actually probably more than likely get added to that $28 million. So again, it's just before, probably in July, I'll look at what we need to do. The base will be $28 million. It may go as high as $30 million. So.
Yeah, what are the rates looking like these days?
Actually, the rates during January dropped significantly, not dramatically, significantly, and it was looking pretty good. And then inflation ticked up again, and the rates went back up again. The hope is that when we did this, the thought was that, and it still is the thought, that the Fed will cut rates probably in June. I was hoping for March, June, and July, but it looks like June they'll cut rates, and that'll help us to get a rate. But we're probably looking right now, my guess would be we're probably looking at maybe a little under 3.1. So our last one was 3.27. That was in 2023. I'm thinking maybe 3.05, 3.08 in that range at this point. So depends on who's out there and what the market's doing and how aggressively the Fed cuts rates.
Good luck.
Yeah.
To all of us.
Patty?
No questions.
Sarah?
No questions.
Keith?
No questions. I don't know if it's an appropriate time, but everybody else got their plaudits before. I think Joe deserves them as well. With everything that he puts together when he's issuing debt for these projects. I remember his projections from January that he had done a year in advance were like spot on. So as part of that team with Russ and everybody else, I mean, one of the reasons that we're able to keep the town running with minimal budget increases is because we have good financial planning. So thank you.
Thank you.
Amy?
No questions.
Dave?
I'm all set.
Well, I would definitely echo Keith's statement. You know, you do a fine job, and it is pretty incredible to look at something and you say, write this number on the top of your piece of paper, we're gonna come back to it, and, oh yeah, I said that last year, have a good day.
But I have, and I actually, like you put, I actually have to say, and this is probably a plug for bond counsel, because I know you guys are thinking about bond counsel, but I have a pretty good team of consultants that I work with, and while they don't make the decisions, they do offer very good advice, and bond counsel and fiscal advisor. We put, when we knew we were going into this, I put together a team that I thought would, really work well for the town, and it's actually proven to be very good. It's worked out very well for us, so.
It has, and thank them.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is going to be a TA for 68. I'd like to make a motion for a tentative approval for page 68.
Second.
Motion second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Joe, is the front page now?
Yep.
Yeah. General fund revenue, so I think that's, they don't have page numbers on it, but we'll just call it the general fund revenue.
Right, so this is page after the summary tab.
Right at the beginning, after the red tab.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want me to go through it, or if you just want to ask questions, but.
And if you, yeah, and if you remember, it matches with the front page of the tax and budget worksheet. So the tax and budget worksheet is the revenue side right there, other property taxes, license and permits. That's what this page is here. It's broken down, and you can see the different things: property taxes, license, permits, fines and penalties, interest, the federal grants. I think the couple of things to just note is that we did do quite well with our federal and state grants. There's quite a bit of an increase there. Our interest, interest rates obviously are up, and so we are doing well with the interest. This is where the fund equity, if you remember, I did put in $850,000 for the fund balance. That's where this number comes from.
Joe, can you just, what was the fund balance at again? Do you have the number?
It's a little over 17.
A little over 17.
Yeah. 17% of the operating budget.
17% of the operating budget, and then I think
It's,
I might have been scolded for saying this last time, but we want 15 or above, right? Is that right?
right, you want 15 or above.
15, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 above, I'm sorry.
And I would just remind you that it's 17% of the current year's budget. It's not 17% of whatever you settle on as, for next year's budget. So the larger next year's budget gets, the smaller the percentage gets.
Understood.
Any questions, Dave? No. Amy? Keith?
No questions.
Sarah?
No questions.
Patty?
Joe, I'm just curious about your projections. They just, I think you do a great job, as Keith said. I just noticed over the past, other than 2019, 2020, we've consistently had since around 2017, had over about $1 million more than what's been projected. So I'm just curious about how you do your projections and what you base them on.
Well, it depends on the revenue source as to how I do the projection. So to give you an example, current taxes would be, obviously it's the levy time, it's the grand list times the mill rate less the collection percentage gives you your levy. So, or what you think you're going to collect. So, but there's a couple of other factors in there that we always have to work with. What's not included in the numbers that you get in the grand list or from the tax collector there are elderly abatements, and we do those every year, and that's a wild card number. And then there's also volunteer firefighter abatements, which aren't factored in there by anybody, which I have to factor in. And then something that's been relatively minor in the past, which has grown in the past 5 to 6 years, is assessors' corrections during the year. And assessors' corrections could be anything from bad information on motor vehicles. For example, one year we received on our motor vehicle list. We get our motor vehicle list from the state of Connecticut, DMV department. One year, they sent us all the buses for Old Saybrook. So during the year, when Old Saybrook got their, the bus company Old Saybrook got their tax bill from us, they said, our buses aren't in your town. And we had to take like $100,000 off off the tax levy. So there's assessor's corrections like that, and there's also the assessor's corrections based on the settlements we have with all of our tax appeals based on reval. I've mentioned in the past to the council that we just settled the last case from the 2017 reval. We had 47 cases on this 2017 reval. We settled the last one last year. One of the problems with that is, you always going to split, if they win or even if you split the assessment, it's tax revenue loss, and you have to make that up. So that has to be factored in also. So there's a variety of variables when you're doing that projection. Another big category is the state and federal grants. In looking at state and federal grants, we take our numbers from the state. The state gives us the numbers when the governor presents his budget, or when the legislatures, after the legislature settles the budget, we get from the state, these are the numbers we're giving you next year. The problem with that is they're formula numbers, and they don't necessarily run the formulas. There was one year where the legislature actually said, these are the numbers you are getting. We don't care about the formulas. This is what you're actually getting. And that was an easy year, because that's what we got. They said it, and we got it. But most of these grants that you see here are formula grants.
But, and Joe, excuse me, that one of the things Patty just mentioned, but over the last couple of years, haven't we gotten revenue grants from the state that we didn't expect that we were going to get?
Right, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
So some of these grants, they tell you a number, and then you get a different amount, and it's based on the formula that they used when they. So sometimes their formulas are. Give you an example. That pilot tier, that was the 3.7 that we budgeted for this year was the number they gave us, and when it actually came in, it came in at almost $4.2 million. So, and then if you look at the municipal revenue sharing grant, they actually renamed it and divided it up, but they gave us $129,000. We budgeted $504,000. They gave us $129,000, but then they gave us a new grant for $545,000. So sometimes you can't really trust what, I don't want to say you can't trust what the state gives you, but sometimes you just don't know what the state's going to give you. The equalized cost sharing grant is another one where they give you a number, but what they don't tell you is that during the year, any adjustments they make to any adjustments they make to your special ed grant, excess cost grant, they take it out of your ECS grant. So you may get, they may tell you you're going to get $1.1 million, and then reduce it by whatever audit adjustments they make to your special ed grant, or they may not make it, or they, for whatever reason, they run the formula and give you a higher amount. So we try to be conservative with those. But most of these are really what we look at is experience, and we look at what are known quantities. One of the interest income is an interesting one. If you think about 3 years ago, we got less than $125,000 in interest income. Then the rates shot up, and the banks, even though they're not lending you money, they want your money, and they're being very aggressive about money right now. And we've also been very fortunate because we have a lot of cash right now. We have cash from the high school project. We're sitting on $7 million in ARPA money right now, which is we're going to spend next year to renovate the 1928 building. That's generating about $480,000 in interest income right now because we haven't invested. Okay, so that's a plus for us at this point, and that's what's driving this year's number of up over the $2 million mark. But that money will be gone next year. Also next year, we're going to become net borrowers again in terms of the general fund. As I mentioned before, we're not going to be as flush with cash. We're not going to go out to we're going to try to reduce the philosophy is going to be to try to reduce the amount that we issue in debt next year. So, which means any capital expenditures that are debt driven, for example, if the high school, not the high school, if the 2 fire trucks pass, if the HVAC at the police department passes, those are all big ticket numbers. That money, I'm not going to run out and bond that next year. I would probably bond that the year after, which means next year we're going to have to borrow that money from the general fund, from fund balance, our cash reserve. So that's less money that will be invested next year. The other thinking with the interest income is that I'm betting on the debt side that rates are going to get cut and reduced. I mean, that's my philosophy, so I can't say on the debt side, the money, the amount we're going to pay on interest is going to be less next year because they're going to reduce rates and then keep the rates high on the interest income side. It's a one-for-one here. So you have to look at how much cash flow you think you're going to have next year, how much available reserves you're going to have next year, and then what the rates are going to be next year. So that we look at all that when we're just doing that one number. Building permits is the same way. We have a baseline for building permits. We know how much building permit, I don't know how much, I know based on experience how much revenue the typical, putting air conditioning in a house is going to be and stuff like that, what we're going to generate from building permits. What the unknown is how much the large projects are going to be, because you get large projects come along. Trump does something, or you heard EBM PAPS does something. So all of a sudden, like in January of this year, we were trugging along in January of this year, end of January of this year, we got a $250,000 building permit for some commercial building renovation that was going to happen. So you try to factor one of those in also. Sometimes you get two of them. When they, the year they built the Mormon temple, it was like $1 million building permit. So, and we look at that. I listened to Rose today, just like everybody else listened to Rose. I see what's coming up on what's coming up on the drawing board, what's out there, what's going to happen, and we factor all that in. So each revenue account has a different philosophy or projection to it. So.
Thanks, Joe. I have a follow-up question on the taxes. So our annual report said, I think, that we collected 99.7%, but I assume that's 99.7% of, I'm going to say valid taxes for lack of a better word, but it's after they've been corrected or after the abatements, all the things that would reduce the taxes.
Yeah, what we do on the collection rate, I hear this one all the time, is what we do on the collection rate is we actually break it into the three components. So I look at how much we collect on real estate tax, I look at how much we collect on personal property tax, and I look at how much we collect on motor vehicle taxes, and have a running history of it. Actually, I think I have 20 years worth of data. You know what it always averages out to? No matter what you use, 99.6. The problem that we run into is that obviously personal property is a big generator and that collection rate is usually higher, but it's not high enough to get you up to 99.6. So what one of the fudge factors that I use to recognize the fact that real estate is a bigger component of the total grand list, I actually increase the collection rate to like either 99.67, 99.68. So I take that extra portion, and that's attributable strictly to the real estate taxes. So, but again, this budget here has factored in 99.67%. And the other thing you have to worry about is, like you mentioned, when you're, was it last year or 2 years ago, look at the annual report, and what it's going to tell you, we collected 100% of the taxes. What it's not going to tell you is that the levy that year was less than what we budgeted. Because we had so many corrections from those 47 tax appeals that we settled that year, and we had to give back so much money, the levy was actually reduced to below what we had actually budgeted that year for taxes. So, yeah, it looked great. We collected 100% of taxes, but it wasn't what we had budgeted. We had budgeted more than that. So you have to factor those in. I have the assessor has 27 tax appeals right now that he's going to court on. There's some pretty substantial ones there that we're going to have to adjust. We're going to have to adjust for in the next. My direction to him is settle them as soon as you can, because I don't want this to drag out for 7 years like we just did with the last one, and I don't want to have these big tax bills at the end or these big reimbursements or refunds at the end. So, but But, you know, in fairness to him, he's got to do what's right, and he's got to protect the towns in his assessment, where he thinks he's got a good assessment. So he has to, you know, do that. And some of these will carry over for year to year. If you file, a lot of these places, if they file a lawsuit against the 2022 grand list, they're going to file that same lawsuit in 2023 and 2024. So that's also going to impact those years. And the longer they stay out there, the bigger the impact's going to be on the levy.
Thank you. I appreciate the detailed answer.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Just a couple of questions. Joe, thanks for everything you're doing for making it understandable. That's the even bigger job. When we were talking about projections at the beginning of this project, I was curious about the fact that we're using our fund balance to help take care of things that we needed to, and I'm glad that we had that there, and we're doing it again, which I'm glad it's there to do it. But my question back then was, how do we begin to replenish that? Because it looked like we have some more debt that's gonna come on, not this next billing cycle, maybe, but the one after that. We're looking at some fire trucks and some additional things, and I want us to help maintain our Moody's rating, and I know that that's a factor. So how long does it take us to build it up or keep it, you know, where it's, you know, where it needs to be?
Well, it is where it needs to be, okay? The concern isn't somewhat, the concern is not so much, I guess there's two concerns when you use fund balance. One is, you're right, you want to keep it where you promised you're going to keep it, where your
about
policy says
15,
to
right?
keep it, and where the credit rating agency said you should keep it. So yes, you want to do that. And the second thing you want to do is you don't want to become so reliant on your fund balance to fund your operations, because like you said, it's not going to be there at some point, and that's going to give you that's going to be a hole for you that you're going to have to make up. So and I always tell people, and I try to explain, or I try to teach the philosophy of in budgets like this is stepping up. And this is the first time we had to do this, and several people alluded to this over the past couple of nights, that back in 2012 or whatever, when we had the big crash and we had the reval and everything else, you know, we decimated everything, and we didn't get it all back in 1 year. We got it back over time, okay? And it's unfortunate that we go through these cyclical cycles. You'd always like to say we're going on a steady path, we're going up to where we need to be. But that's not reality. There's always things beyond your control and my control that impact what we do. So you really need to, you're going to have these cycles unless you're, and every town has this. It's not unique to Farmington. It's every town goes through this. Some towns it's much worse than Farmington. You're very lucky that you have I was going to say a fine instructor, but you're lucky you have you're lucky you have a fund balance, and you have a good tax base to get through. But everything is always a step up. You can't recapture everything all at once, and you can't replenish everything all at once, and it's a time thing. I've been very fortunate working with the councils here, because the councils have been very supportive of the fund balance policy and honoring it. You know, I have a credit rating agency report where they said that they noted that when they looked at this budget and said, you're taking $1.2 million, and I said, yes, we are. I said, but I don't think we're going to use it all. And they said, that'd be great if you don't. And then they said, this is only the second time that we could find in the last 10 years where you've actually used fund balance. And they said that we really think that's great. So I was like, well, okay, but that's the support you get from the council, and you're buying into the philosophy. So, but again, it's all a step-up process. You can't do everything all at once.
And I know you can't predict, but I am thinking about the future, and I'm glad that it's there when we need it. I just see the opportunity for needing it in the very near future, in the next, maybe possible 2 years. I'm not sure, but.
Well, if you remember my forecast, you're going to be sitting here a year from now with the same decisions to make.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, so you're going to be sitting here looking at a 6% tax increase again next year, because you're going to have debt coming on. The debt that we're doing this summer is going to come on a year from this August. So yeah, you're going to be sitting here next year trying to make these same decisions.
Lucky us.
And you're probably gonna tap fund balance again. So, you know, it's really, you know, in reality,
It's the
I'll
cycle.
tell you a secret. I'm not sure many people catch this, but this budget actually tells you what's gonna happen at the end of, what I think is gonna happen at the end of this year. In this budget, if I'm right, and don't know if I'm going to be right at this point, I'm not as confident today as I was when I did this. You know, this says you're not gonna use this budget says you're not gonna use this budget forecast, or that shows up on the second page of this revenue forecast, says you're not gonna use that $1.2 million this year. It says you have enough other revenue coming in that you won't need this $1.2 million this year. So you actually, are, you know, I'll give it away to you. You could use this $1.2 million again next year.
Well, if we need to, we'd be very fortunate. And just one quick follow-up on that bond issue that we were talking about. You said you might be adding on, oh, sorry, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's something else.
No, I'm sorry, Brian. It was a side conversation. Sorry. That's on me. I got yelled at for this in school all the time. This is your time.
Do you want to share with the rest of the class?
No. Don't make me read my note, please. Yeah. Sorry.
No worries. My question was, you said that we're looking at possibly purchasing some property.
Well, you guys are
Yeah.
looking at the possibility. I
Yeah.
didn't know
You said that
anything
we
about
might
it
be
until.
tacking on some bonds.
Enough.
I didn't know anything about it until I read the, you know, until I read the agenda and saw $600,000 and said, gee, nobody told me about that. You know,
Like I said, we got it on sale.
Yeah, we did. 50 grand
Do we
off.
need to take on additional debt, or did we have the money for that?
No, that will, you have the authorization, you have you have like $715,000. Back in 2014, the town council did a debt authorization for about $4 million. And you have about $715,000 of that left at this point that has not been issued, that has not been spent. So assuming you do buy this piece of property for $600,000, that will get paid through bonding. We will
Gotcha.
bond that $600,000, and then you'll be down to $114,000, and then hopefully, you know, you don't find, Kathy doesn't find any more sale properties.
No, thank you for clarifying. I was just curious. Appreciate that. Thank you. Keith?
No, I'm good.
all set.
I'm good. Thank you.
Let's TA this.
TA pages with no numbers here at the beginning, the summaries.
Yeah.
Revenue summary.
Make a motion to temporarily, what am I saying?
TA, the
Temporarily
revenue
approve-
summaries.
I got this cookie problem now, too. Those things are bad. Temporarily approve the general fund revenue and general fund appropriations pages in our book.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No, every motion carries.
Capital, right?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're back now.
Yeah.
We start over again where you want to go.
Right, so we've gone through everything in the budget.
Yes.
And so now, one of the things, Joe, you had mentioned to me yesterday, and was that you felt that there was a chance that we'd probably have to reduce my capital budget recommendation of 2.88%, and you had asked me to make reductions to have that number be at $2,200,000, with half of it going to the school system and half of it going to the municipal operation.
Correct.
And I had an opportunity to speak to the superintendent, and as you remember yesterday, you guys spoke to them about that they knew there would be reductions in the capital. Would you want me to go through what those reductions would be? So to get
Please.
down to 2,200, it would be $1,100,000 on the town side for the capital. So I can just quickly go through what the thoughts were. And one of the things that LoCIP, which is a state grant, they've changed some of their, recently, right? It just happened about changing maybe you can just explain that, Joe.
There's a grant program called LoCIP. It's a local capital improvement program. It's a state grant program. I'll make this real quick because Keith's starting to get glossy-eyed.
Whoa. I'm taking, speak out of turn one time, and now I'm taking shot. I just complimented you 10 minutes ago, Joe. Come on.
And what the program is, it's to support towns' capital projects. And the way the program ran prior to this year was you had to identify capital projects, you had to spend the money, then you apply for reimbursement. You apply for the project, and then you apply for reimbursement. In 2023, the state legislature changed the program, and they're going to give us the money, or give all the towns their allocation up front, and you get to spend it. The catch is that you have to identify, by September of this year, I have to identify what projects you're going to spend it on. So, and we're going to get $220,000. The types of capital projects, it's kind of narrow, and it has a lot of conditions on it. So unfortunately, it doesn't go with equipment, so you can't apply it to like lawn mowers or dump trucks or anything like that. So basically, you have to identify, it's usually building improvements, land acquisition, things of that nature.
Technology.
Technology is a big one. Police and public safety are a very big one. As a matter of fact, in the current year's budget, we used $150,000 of LoCIP money to do the radios for the police department and the radios for the fire department. So keeping in that vein.
Okay, so to get to $1,100,000, I would need to reduce $340,000 out of the budget you see here in the book. But we have $220,000 of LoCIP funds. So some of these are going to make reductions out of the general fund, but they're going to turn to O's, which is the LoCIP funds, other funds. So the first one was $83,000 for the highway and grounds mower, and if so that's would be minus $83,000. The next one, my recommendation would be $37,000 in the town manager town hall improvements. The number that we have now is
125.
125, so we take 37,000 out of that, and that's a banking account and also account to have for an architect and some different things for when we renovate this building. The next thing would be minus $45,000 in town manager technology, but that would turn to an O, correct?
Yep, so some of the projects that were funded under that, council chamber technology upgrades and server infrastructure, equaling that 45,000 would turn into an O.
So it's really, for all practical purposes, it's not really a reduction because it's just turning to an O. Minus $75,000 for police technology. That would be the security camera replacement, and that would turn into an O. So we just make that an O. And $100,000 for fire and rescue communication upgrades, and that would turn into an O. So again, we had to cut out $340,000, but we had $220 that we could use for LoCIP money. So the reduction was $340 minus $220, and that was $83,000 for the grounds mower and $37,000 for the town hall improvements. So that's like the actual real reductions. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So then that town's part of the capital would be $1,100,000. And then the board, we spoke to the board, and theirs, if you remember, their section would be $1,100,000, and they said their technology and infrastructure would be $300,000. School security would be $170,000. School code and safety would be $150,000. And elementary K-4 HVAC would be $480,000. So that would be their 4 projects, and that equals $1,100,000. Again, for a number on here, your tax and budget worksheet would change from $2,800,000 to $2,200,000.
And you had a conversation with the superintendent, obviously, where
This was
she
the
was
list
more
that they
important-
gave us.
Yeah, but where she was more important to what fund she wanted
Yep.
funded. She wanted more in her non-capital and her.
Right,
other
exactly.
stuff.
So that would be my recommendations for the capital budget, to bring the capital budget down to $2,200,000.
Could you just run through theirs again one more time?
Sure.
If you could.
I will. It would be technology infrastructure would be $300,000.
Right.
School security would be $170,000. School code and safety, $150,000. And elementary K-4 HVAC, $480,000.
So the things they're giving up are cafeteria equipment, district MEP, structural, architectural, Irving A. Robbins and the roof at Westwoods?
No,
The roof is bonded.
bonded.
Oh, that's bonded, that's right, I'm sorry, that was bonded.
That sounds correct to me.
Patty, do you have a question? No? Brian?
I'm good, thank you.
Sarah?
No,
Keith?
Not in this.
Amy? Anything else, Dave?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So now, basically, we are,
Oh, I did have one thing. There's the grant, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
The grant, this new O.
Yeah.
thing, so you have to apply for that in the fall, September, is that, or,
No, they're gonna give us the money. Basically, in June, they're gonna send us a check for $220,000. By September,
you have to tell them.
I have to tell them, or we have to tell them how we're gonna spend that money. So we have to give them a list of the projects that money will be allotted to.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so in lieu of all the information that we have, I could see us going forward in this direction, if everybody wants to hear my quick proposal here. Given the conversation with the Board of Ed last night, I would propose their budget percentage to be at 4.75, which is what the superintendent said they could get to while not affecting services or needing to reduce staff. I would keep the town at 2.8 as listed, with the exception of I would put in to try to put two seasonal employees in, or whatever they need to put in a seasonal employee each, for the police and the grounds department.
what would be the dollar amount?
So would that be something like 30,000, 15 for each?
Yeah, so that'd be probably two seasonals in each department,
Yep.
about two in each one.
Roughly.
So there'd be two, sorry,
Yeah.
I misunderstood what we
Yeah.
were talking about before
Yeah.
then. More the better. Debt service, I would not touch. Capital, I would keep as proposed, with the exception of if we could add in 83,000 for that mower that Russ had spoken about. I made the joke that I'm pro mower. I really am. I think that I think it's important to note that Public Works was not a flat schedule or flat budget, and it wasn't. It wasn't even a modest increase. Public Works went down, and so I think Russ does a good job hiding it, but because they do such a good job with their equipment. But I do think that they are desperate for some new equipment. We have a golf course in town. I think moving stuff around like that is incredibly, inconvenient. That mower, I think he said, was from the 90s, or was it 2001? But it's incredibly old. So if we can add that, as Joe mentioned, the board stressed that if they were to get additional funds above where we had initially targeted, that it was more important for their operational budgets. I think this capital addition would be good for them. And then the only other change I would make to our first page would be going off of what Joe said about fund balance. I would move our contribution from this year from fund balance from 850 to 1.2. If we are getting, is that?
Yep, nope.
So if we're getting to the end of this year and we're, knock on wood, not going to touch that, the hope would be that we're not, affecting any of our credit ratings that we said that's all important for us to keep track of. It's not an additional 1.2, it's an additional 350,000. And so I don't know where those numbers bring us on the town side of the budget, but.
Yep, and so maybe if we give Joe a minute, he can probably do it and then put it on the screen for us. He can
Yeah,
do
okay.
a new tax and budget worksheet, we can look at that, see where that brings you.
While Joe's doing that, does anybody have a question?
Yeah, so that was upping the 850 to
1.2.
Okay.
It really came off of Joe's comments that
Yeah.
1.2, I mean.
Well, if we allocated it last year, and if we're
Right.
not going to use it.
And we're not going to use it, it
we're
makes
gonna use
complete sense, I mean, so.
Sorry, anybody else question?
Patty?
No questions right now.
Okay. Sarah?
No, at the moment, no.
Amy? All right, go ahead, Keith.
I don't know, man, the only other thing I was going to say, I'm piggybacking on my own statement, but.
I'll piggyback.
Yeah, go ahead, piggyback.
Again, when I sat down with the Board of Ed Chair, Mr. Becker, and the superintendent, and we discussed everything that was the best for them, again, they stressed that, operating was very, very important to them in order to, keep the teachers on staff, to maintain the services that they were giving, and they would be able to, obviously be okay with the reduction in their capital projects. So And again, we first started off with a 3.2 with a 2.8 to the town, so obviously we're jumping up to a 4.75 for that 3.2 and understanding the needs of the town that, we can't just keep decimating them, that we should try to just, again, it takes us a little bit of an opportunity to fund something and push the line a little ahead because we have the opportunity this year, knowing that next year it's going to be a bigger stress on us and the town in order to find common ground that makes operations smooth and doesn't overburden everybody.
I think it's also for, like, us as a council, I know that there's always the ask, but, it does show a big commitment to the Board of Ed as well. I mean, it's the biggest percentage increase in their budget since 2011, 2012. I think it shows that we're serious about doing as much as we can for both the municipal and the Board of Education side.
I think Joe's ready with the numbers. Let's see how it comes out on the screen. Can we see it?
Yeah. I'm gonna
No,
I'm gonna blow it up.
It's a little difficult.
Um,
Is there any way to put them on monitors?
Can you go to your, I'm gonna print this out in your office.
Oh, sure.
No, thank you.
Need those technology improvements he was talking about for council chambers.
Those is things.
You got a printer?
You just hit it.
And it would blower.
Do you just want to take a couple minute break?
Yeah. We'll take a couple minutes.
All right, we'll just take a 5-minute break while we get those papers printed up.
Try to blow it up a little bit on the screen.
Yeah, that looks a little better.
Oh, you got the paper coming to
Well,
you.
you have the
I
paper
know.
in front of you also. Just to go through it, you wanted the board at a 4.75, so their budget would be $79,544,240. It's a reduction of $924,755. The two $15,000 for the seasonal help would add $30,000 to the town budget, so the town budget would go to 2.89% from the 2.8. That stays the same. If I get the capital right, which I think I did, we're going down to 2.2, but then we're going back up for the mower, so that net, it becomes $2,283,000. That's a reduction of $597 to the contribution, not necessarily to the capital budget, but to the contribution. So that becomes $2,283,000. That's with the mower in there. Bottom line is that the budget would then become $128,601,165. It's a 6% budget increase. I'm going to skip over the grand list. On the revenues, on the fund balance, you're increasing the fund balance up to $1.2 million, so it'd be the same as this year, which brings the total revenues to non-tax revenues to $15,185,923. So what ends up happening is your mill rate becomes 25.45 mils. It's a 1.24 mil increase. It's a 5.13% tax increase, or $375 on the average home. That's what it would look like.
Any questions on those numbers? Patty, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Gotcha. You're all set with any questions?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
Okay. Brian?
I'm good.
Sarah?
I'm good.
Keith?
No questions.
Amy?
I'm good.
And Dave?
Just a couple items. One item is, I know on the Board of Ed, because we weren't in the discussion that you had with the Board of Ed, but I know last night's presentation, they talked about the reserves. Are they using some of that reserve?
Yes.
I mean, has that been?
Yeah, that's
kind of been.
my understanding.
That's the understanding?
Yeah.
Based on what they said last night, it sounds like they would use $500,000.
Right.
The reserve.
Right. And then. Yep, that was the one question. Okay.
Okay. So I think if we're good there, I think we should start with our motions and start moving things along.
All right.
you made them?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll start with these two. This is to add to the highway, and this is to add to the thing.
Okay.
So we'll make those two, and then I'll help you with the rest of them. We'll go
Gotcha.
through.
It's better than my scratched in stuff over here. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to add $15,000 to the highway and grounds operations seasonal account.
Second.
Got a motion to second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Make a motion to add $15,000 to the police patrol seasonal account.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
I make, go ahead.
Yeah, so now you're gonna make a bunch of individual motions. Go.
I make a motion to set the Board of Education budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 at $79,544,240, an increase of $3,607,018, or 4.75% over the current year budget.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do you have any discussion?
Yeah, Joe, if I could just say, I appreciate all the work that's gone into as Keith pointed out earlier in the discussion, at making sure that we are funding our schools and providing them with the operating funds that they need. And I understand from my own conversations with the chair of the board that this is definitely something that the board supports and can work with. So I just want to, because I know we've gotten a lot of messages in the past few days about funding the board at its full amount. So I just want to say that I have assurances that this works for them.
Thank you. Anybody else with a discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Make a motion to set the town operating budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 at $35,021,657, an increase of $982,389, or 2.89% over the current year budget.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I make a motion to set the debt service budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 at $11,426,268, an increase of $1,461,525, or 14.67% over the current year budget.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Make a motion to change the funding source of the capital improvement plan, fire and rescue services, communication upgrades account from $100,000 from the general fund to $100,000 in other funding, LOCIP state funding. Second.
Oh, second. I'm sorry.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I make a motion to reduce the capital improvement plan, police technology improvements account by $75,000.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I make a motion to add a new project security camera replacement in the capital improvement plan, capital improvement plan, police in the amount of $75,000 to be funded by other funds, LOCIP state grant.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
Make a motion to reduce the town manager technology improvements account by $45,000.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Make a motion to add new project technology upgrades and service replacement in the capital improvement plan, town manager, in the amount of $45,000 to be funded by other funds.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Make a motion to reduce the town manager town hall improvements account by $37,000.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Make a motion to set the Board of Education's capital budget as follows for a total of $1,100,000. Technology infrastructure, $300,000. School security, $170,000. School code and safety, $150,000. Elementary K-4 HVAC, $480,000.
Second.
Got a motion to second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I make a motion to set the capital improvement budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 at $2,283,000, an increase of $1,283,000, or 128.3% over the current budget year.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Make a motion to set the fiscal year 2024-2025 BOE defined contribution budget at $326,000, an increase of $1,000, or 0.31% over the current budget year.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Make a motion to increase the appropriation from fund balance by $350,000.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. This last one's a long one with a lot of numbers, so bear with me. I make a motion to set the town of Farmington fiscal year budget for the Board of Education at $79,544,240, or a 4.75 increase above fiscal year 2023-2024 budget, and the town operating budget at $35,021,657, or a 2.89 increase over the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget, and the debt service budget at $11,426,268, or a 14.67 increase above fiscal year 2023-2024 budget, and the capital improvement budget at $2,283,000, or an increase, or 128.3% increase above fiscal year 2023-2024 budget, and the BOE defined contribution budget at $326,000, or a 0.31% increase above fiscal year 2023-2024, resulting in a total appropriation for fiscal year 2024-2025 of $128,601,165, a 6.05% increase over fiscal year 2023-2024 budget.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Read this. Yeah. Last one. I make a motion to approve the warning of the April 15th, 2024 annual town meeting and the April 25th, 2024 referendum.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion?
All right, wait,
No.
let's talk about that, right?
Okay, that's the discussion
This is
part.
Maureen, just
Have it, and that's the,
Kathy, I think you might have stolen one of mine, so you could probably throw it out. It's just got a chicken scratch on it, so.
Maureen. This one?
That's it.
Could be.
Yes. Should be like 6 pages, 5 pages.
Okay, so what we're doing here is our bonding questions, and the warning, you guys have to sign this before we leave today. So basically, what we're doing is that the questions are gonna be, first question's gonna be, shall the budget, so we talked about, just did that. Then the next one, the question number 2 is that, shall the town of Farmington appropriate $2,385,000 for the replacement of the roof at Westwood's Upper Elementary School? So that's the second question. The third question will be, shall the town of Farmington appropriate $2,750,000 for the replacement of the HVAC systems and the roof at the police facility? That would be that. The fourth question would be, shall the town of Farmington appropriate $1.4 million for the acquisition of a new engine 8 fire engine pumper and engine pumper? And then the fifth question would be, shall the town of Farmington appropriate $1.75 for the acquisition of a Quint fire truck? So the fire trucks are
Separate items.
separate questions. And so those would be, and then a lot of the legalese. So that's what you're voting for right now. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, you're not voting for those? You still have to vote for those? You'll do that at your April 1st meeting? What you're voting for is to approve the warning that will be published in the newspaper, announcing to the citizens and eligible voters of the town that these topics will be brought up at the annual town meeting and will be sent to referendum.
Thank
So So if anybody has any trepidation about any of those projects and doesn't want to vote for them, you're not voting for them tonight. You'll get that opportunity on April 1st
Right. And at the ballot.
and at the ballot.
Yeah.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
All right. I think we're done.
We're done?
I think we're done.
All right.
Saturday, we just got in,
Saturday.
and we're just hanging out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Saturday, we're just having breakfast.
Nice.
No Saturday.
Saturday's canceled.
Saturday's canceled, Monday and Tuesday are
Right.
canceled, so we're done.
Yep.
And then, just so everyone understands the process, April 1st, this is now going to be called the town council's
Propose.
Right now,
proposed.
right. Basically what it says on here, it's proposed budget. You are now in your proposed budget stage.
You're on the proposed, and when it's approved on April 1st, it becomes your recommended budget. But right now, April 1st, we'll have a public hearing on the town council's proposed budget.
When do we go into blackout? That we can't?
When you send it to referendum on April 1st.
Okay.
And April 1st is a Monday, not a normal Tuesday meeting.
Yep, so we'll have that. We'll have a public hearing, and typically, the chair will do a little intro, we'll go through the detail, and then the superintendent will go through her new budget, and probably the chairperson too. And then we'll have the public hearing on that, and then it gets sent to the annual town meeting.
Got it.
Okay.
So again, I want to echo what Patty said. The superintendent was good with this number, and it was a pleasure to obviously work with everybody here on the dais with this today, the superintendent and the Board of Ed to come to these numbers for our town. So at that, we'll call for adjournment. Keith?
Make a motion to adjourn the March 14th Town Council budget meeting.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Good night, everybody, and thank you very much. Patty, I hope you feel better.